And good morning, everybody. Peter Boyles in for George Brauchler. The morning show on a Thursday, October 5, 2023. Good old 710 KNUS. 68 will be the high. You heard the man talk. This is some beautiful fall weather. On Friday, 60 and 75 on Saturday. Now, we're down to doing a Saturday morning show, 9 to noon, and doing fill-in work. But on this Saturday, in studio, Jimmy Walker. And if you grew up in Colorado or if you know much about Denver radio history, Jimmy was Dr. Daddy-O, KDKO, the Daddy-O House Party. I've been a big fan of his for a long, long time, and it's called the O&O, owned and operated. And he, of course, went on to sell that stick or sell that Dow position, and that became Ralph. If you remember, there was one more attempt to have a nonstop liberal talk show station. It was, remember, they had Alice was their FM, and if you know about the Cramdens, about the Honeymooners, who was Ralph, who was Alice married to? Ralph. So some genius down there decided to name a radio station Ralph, and they had it for whatever money-losing amount of time that it was. And nevertheless, that was Jimmy's signal, KDKO. He's got great stories up from Houston. He was a promoter of acts. He did all kinds of different things and ran that radio station, the Daddy-O House Party. And a big fan of Jimmy's. And he's going to come in the studio on Saturday morning about 10, spend a couple hours with us. Last week for 2 hours, we had DMAC with us. And so I love that kind of radio. So the guys will be here. So nevertheless, I haven't had an opportunity to do some gut bucket talk radio, and there's no better morning, and there's nothing better than this. What I have witnessed, and I've been on the sidelines, is watching this vote and watching Ken Buck as one of the 8 Republicans who helped oust Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. Now, these are all internals. This has zero to do with the kinds of things that Ken Buck is saying. This is about Ken Buck living in fear of the far-right craziness that goes on in the Civil War in the Colorado GOP. Don't you think it's fascinating? I said this to Billy. Don't you think it's fascinating that Lauren Boebert, the Queen of Mean, right? What does she do? Oh, Kevin's my guy. Why do you think she voted that way? Because she is trying to clean up her image. Yeah, guys, remember, you go back to Lauren in the theater, Lauren doing this, Lauren doing that. And now what Lauren is trying to do is trying to gather to herself all the wonderful middle-of-the-road Republicans, the people that the crazies did not want to be able to vote in primaries. Lauren Boebert did it, and I'm telling you guys, nothing happens as it seems, right? Then why does Ken Buck vote to oust the guy? For exactly the same reasons. Exactly the same reasons. And he still may get primaried. But I think they took a lot of edge off of him because Ken Buck, he's like Ken Buck. The answer to a question nobody asks. The guy has been, he's been Doug Lamborn light. And so all of a sudden they destroyed this. I mean, right now it's like, it's laughable, but nobody sees it. Like, I've talked to so many people that I respect, and I had lunch with a new friend yesterday. And then I spoke with one of the sheriffs yesterday, and I talked to Bonnewell about it, and they chuckled. They know what they did. And this has got to do with the politics of contraband. It's the smuggler's blues. Remember that, Billy? So Ken Buck is no, first of all, he suddenly becomes the hero to these people. Quit it. It's not what happened. Why? All right. So I'm going to just bring Billy into this, and we'll start the phones up 303-696-1971. Dick Wadhams is with us at 7 o'clock this morning. How underhanded and nasty this has gotten. And I don't know if you saw this piece, and they claim it is written by, quote, conservative Republican state rep Ken DeGraff. And it's entitled, "What a Bunch of Dicks. How Dick Wadhams and the Establishment Screw the GOP." Right. These are people who backed Ron Hanks.
Yeah.
Think about it, right? Yeah. First of all, good morning, William. It's good to see you, sir.
Hey, nice to see you.
Yeah, I miss you, man. I really do miss you.
It's like getting the band back together. It's always nice to see.
What are you guys doing? We're putting the band back together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and I always tell people it's like getting on that bicycle you haven't ridden in a while, but it just feels right. You just sit there and you're like, okay, this is exactly it. Yeah. It's nice. Yeah. That's good to see you.
And you too. But so I called you last night. We were chasing each other. You're working.
Yeah. I was in a bar getting paid to not drink. Imagine that one. I mean, it'd be like the best job and the worst job when I was, in my 20s. Yeah. But yeah, it's okay.
So I get a phone call, and again, one day when the book is written, about this Colorado GOP chip in and donate. What a great op-ed written by conservative Republican Representative Ken DeGraff. What a bunch of dicks. And they attack Dick Wadhams. This is so, first of all, it's not even truthful. And the points that they make are ridiculous. I have a sneaking suspicion that DeGraff didn't write this. And this is just how I see these people operating. I think this was written by one of so many capable editorialists, winky on that crazy side that believes Trump won. And we've been through this so many times. But now they're back after Wadhams as though this is Wadhams' fault. 303-696-1971. We'll have Dick on. I'm going to tell you what happened. This is what the Popeye is all about. What happened? Why did Ken Buck vote that way? Why did Lauren? I'll just turn it over to you. Bright, smart people early in the morning. Why did Ken Buck vote that way? Number two, why did Lauren Boebert not vote?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question because for weeks we had heard about Ken Buck and that he was becoming more mainstream, and then
CNN Ken.
Exactly. That's where I was going with it. Is the moniker of CNN Ken had been hung on him because the horriblest thing in the world is for a Republican to take the largest paycheck available and then take their labor and knowledge and chase that, because that's a bad thing, right? So if CNN, regardless of whether or not you like the outlet, if they put the largest check on the table, you're going to get mad at Ken and say that he's not pure enough. Why should he not take the largest check on the table? Even if it is CNN, why would you not take it if it was CNN? I mean, seriously,
They're buying it. What Ken Buck did was an attempt to, they call it getting primaried. It's an action verb. And he just bought himself out of that because, my God, they're not coming after CNN Ken now because he's proven that he can stand there like a man. And I know too much Ken Buck. But why Lauren Boebert did not? Because you would think that she would be the one that would. She was the mighty crusader. Well, then she got caught doing Lord only knows what. We've been, I'm sure other shows have been over it. But it's fascinating that she is known, she's come out and people have said some pretty nasty stuff about her. And I know that the radio station had to smooch derriere to get her back on the air. And okay, that's all good. That's great. Thank you very much. However, why didn't you do this? And they all alleged to have hated the speaker. And now there ain't no speaker. Now, actually, what did they do? What did Ken Buck do? He threw the whole shebang into the hands of the Democrats. He voted with the Democrats. But why did he do it? He didn't do it because what the kinds of things that they're trying to sell you. Here's what Ken Buck did. I'm going to cover my ass. I'm going to make these people think I'm one of them. And then flip side, and it was like, it was plain as the nose on your face. On the flip side was Lauren. Lauren said, I'm staying as far away from this as I can. Why? Well, I'm trying to clean up my act. And so both of them are trying to clean up their acts, one by voting and one by laying out. And so all the nice little Republican mommies will look at Lauren and go, well, you really didn't do it. You're really a wonderful woman.
Yeah, you supported, Kevin. And that's an interesting question. And to why the votes went down that way. And I would compare and contrast what we see in the editorial that you just referenced about Representative Ken DeGraff. Because Ken DeGraff says...
I don't think he wrote it.
Yeah, well, they say that the editorial says that we need to tack further right. We need to listen more to the grassroots. We need to be more in touch with them because that is the key to winning. However, if we compare and contrast that to what just happened in the U.S. House, those far-right elements, the people that would be considered those grassroots type of characters, there were 8 of them, only 8, that voted to oust McCarthy, and the Democrats helped them dig a big hole and tossed him. And so convince me that that is actually the best direction forward. When the question was asked, should we get rid of McCarthy, the vast majority of people in his own party wanted to keep him. And we had a sliver of people that then threw him out. And that's the question I would have for Representative DeGraff and others, that when you sit here and say we need to listen to the grassroots Republicans, are you letting that fractional sliver of very loud people run the show? And is that the problem? How convince me that is a winning, that's going to be a winning platform. Like this one, you come forward and say we need to toss McCarthy, and you get 8 of your own caucus.
Well, but
that's how strong it was. That's how strong the support was.
But they did
8.
But 2 of them were here.
Yeah.
2 of them were in Colorado. Colorado is the epicenter for Trump lies. Yeah. It is the epicenter for so many things. This is a text message on my personal phone that I just got from someone I respect who is part of the Republican image making.
Hey, all right.
Who said she, meaning Lauren, was sitting with Gates and Buck before the vote. She voted the way she did to save her nut. Thank you, Peter.
I would agree too.
Oh,
I would absolutely agree
Billy.
with that. Because we got people calling in and we're questioning her bona fides and credibility. And just like I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene, she was a bomb thrower previously. Yeah. And now all of a sudden in this past session, she has become a huge Kevin McCarthy supporter and a huge supporter of the, and I'm using air quotes, system that she has decided to play along with how the system works.
Because she
understood.
Well, she was going to be the operative word primaried.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to come to run and gun. That'll be enough. 303-696-1971. Lines are open. Because I think this is the most missed by radio talk show hosts, editorialists, political operatives. This idiot, Peter, why did you retire and then come back? Because it was your choice. Ken and Lauren Boebert made their choice. Yes, but why?
Yeah, why?
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, of course they made their choice. Doofus. I mean, of course they did. I mean, it's all a choice. The whole shebang is nothing but a choice. But come on. Does anybody really, really, really believe the reasons that are given either on Channel 9 or some editorial someplace or some radio talk show host? This is easily seen. Ken Buck suddenly becomes a hero of the crazy right. Right. Lauren Boebert suddenly becomes a supporter of the middle of the road Republicans. Right. That happens. I know that happens. So this editorial, we got Wadhams coming up, entitled "What a Bunch of Dicks," how Dick Wadhams and the establishment screw the GOP. In other words, so they get angry in this editorial about Joe O'Dea. Now, And if we'd have had our candidate, their candidate, Hanks, you thinking if they just would have listened to us, we'd have run Hanks. And we go back and they say, here's one part of it. We critique this. Dick Wadhams, although a former chairman of the Colorado GOP, is a prime example of problems that plague Republicans. While he wags his finger, he ignores his tenure that was marked by a series of electoral failures, including Hickenlooper's 2010 victory that almost made the GOP a minor party. Now stop, because we were flat in the middle of that one. That was Dan Mays. It was Tancredo. Mays had started out as the Tea Party champion. Come on, whatever your name is, if I don't know who wrote it, I got a sneaking suspicion that Dave Williams has got a hand in this and DeGraff. But you guys forget that election, dudes. I worked it, man. Me, Tancredo, Frida Poundstone. We've talked about that one forever. And Dan Mays. You're saying that was Hickenlooper's 2010 victory was the fault when the Republican Party ran Dan Mays. So let's start with that's the first critique. All right, we're being told to take the break. I'm Peter Boyles in for the vacation. No, actually, I think he's working someplace. Where is George? He's on the road. Whoa, there's a place. So 68 will be the high, 60 on Friday. I get to have Dr. Daddio, the Daddio house party in studio on Saturday. Dick Wadhams coming up at 7. Lines we'll take everybody's calls right after this.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Morning, everybody. Peter Boyles in for George Brauchler, Thursday morning, October 5, 2023. Good old 710 KNUS. We are Denver's talk station. Dick Wadhams coming up. Ken Buck and why he votes like he does. And Lauren Boebert, why she does not. Let's go to the phones. We start with Jim. Hey, man, you're on a radio show. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Pete. There's a term for the disease that America now has, and it's called Dutch disease. And it's when a nation comes up with a windfall and it changes their structure completely. And what has occurred is we've been able to print our own money for so long because of oil and the petrodollar that all our energy goes towards the printing of that money. And Boebert and Buck are tools of this, and they are telling us that they will vote on our behalf, when in fact what they're really doing is they've got the disease, funneling all this money.
If I can, if you look at people's past performance, it generally gives you a pretty good idea of what their present performance will be. Boebert, who has an amazing about face right now in her radical, in terms of right-wing radicalized politics, gun-toting, all this stuff. Well, that starts to gradually go away. And then after the theater incident, when she kind of gets the jacket of being a little handsy, might we say, and so now she's doing as fast as she can. She's trying to become the good little Republican mom who everybody really wants to vote. And she comes pretty close last time to getting beat from that guy in Aspen. Now she's caught in the theater with this guy, and this guy runs drag shows. And I mean, it's like, and apparently, not apparently, because I watched the video, I'm sure everyone else did as well. She was playing fun in the dark, and then she's vaping, and she's creeping out on some pregnant lady. And I mean, so her image has been totally destroyed. So now it's showdown. And if none of those things had ever happened, if her husband they hadn't broken up and all the things that went along, or kid knocks some woman up, and it's just this series of events. She would have
voted no.
No, yeah. she would have voted to get rid of his.
Yeah,
but she didn't do it because she's cleaning her act up. Buck, on the other hand, and I think it's done this simple. Buck is jammed up. Buck, as they call him, they call him CNN Ken, and he was known as a true rhino. And these people on this corner of the Republican Party hated him. Oh my God, he was like a bubble off a Lamborn. Wait a second, let me finish up and I'll give it back to you. So he comes out and does this vote that really appeases these lunatics and that fringy end of the Republican Party in Colorado. They both vote for very personal reasons that have nothing to do with democracy, have nothing to do with the Republic, have zero to do with Speaker. They're doing it to CYA. Now,
they need to maintain control of that government money that's coming in that gives them additional control in their districts. If they lose that control, they lose that government money, which they so deserve, okay?
Well, but it isn't so much that. It's personal gain in terms of staying on the job. Thank you for your call. We go to Steve. Steve, you're on a radio show. Good morning at 632 Peter Boyles for George.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Peter's on, and Peter's on talking politics. Thank God and Greyhound.
Thank God and Greyhound, you're gone. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, I'm a smart Democrat, and I was on the Republicans are done. They're done locally. I mean, and last time Mr. Wadhams was on your show, I called in, we talked about, all this. They're not going to elect anybody statewide in this state. Nationally, they're done. And I was on and with you, and I predicted that Eastman would go down, that Giuliani would go down,
all their heroes,
that Boebert would lose.
Yeah.
And so, that's really my sense. I can't imagine any woman, any person of color, any person in the LGBTQ movement would vote for any Republican.
Well, as it is, yes, and it's an aside, but let me come back to something that's a raw nerve, is Professor Eastman, who now is apparently going to have his ticket yanked in California. He's a RICO in that RICO Act in Georgia. He's got a lot more coming his way. And, and I'm not singing the blues, and I'm certainly not a victim, but in the aftermath of him hanging up on me and the attacks that began, my family was attacked and everything that goes with it from these same people that would be involved in these editorials. So long story short, I haven't received one email, one phone call, one opportunity to apologize. I've never had anybody come to me now that, the Eastman's been indicted. He's lying under, he's trying to lie, stay under he took the Fifth Amendment. And he was Trump's architect of the lie. And it's provable. It's overwhelmingly provable. Not one person, matter of fact, people have the guy on the air. Not one person.
Not
one guy came up to me, not one email, not one phone call. Hey, Peter, I'm sorry.
Well, not that this matters, but I have been with you every single step of the way. And you are right in terms of objective history and of objective current events. And guess what? His defenders, in addition to, not only was the election stolen, now he's being disbarred in California. And guess what? They say that's rigged too. I mean, if anything bad happens to these people,
sure, of course,
it's rigged.
Well,
it's rigged.
But that's the whack-a-mole. When you hit the mole over here, the mole pops up over here. You hit it over here, it comes up in the right corner. These people they're incapable of dealing with their own lies. Now, I'm watching Trump in New York, and something that dawned on me, and Billy and I both aficionados of professional wrestling, and it's clear to me that Joe Biden and Donald Trump need each other. They really do. They need each other. Because in the Republican Party, they say, the other guy. And The same thing is true with the Democrats. And Trump keeps Biden alive, and Biden keeps Trump alive. And I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in New York. I mean, I suspect that they're going to be found guilty up and down the line, but they need each other. And if you think they don't, they do need each other. And
that's an excellent point.
Oh, they do.
I'm
sorry.
interested in what Mr. Wadhams thinks about the Colorado GOP bringing in Kerry Lake as their headliner.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, by the way, I think they're still sending checks to John Eastman on some levels. And these are people.
Well, he's their lawyer. They're paying him legal fees for this case.
Oh, I know that. What I'm saying to you is this is a party that can't afford to hire anybody to work in the office. And yeah.
Well, there's a Colorado wage law they may want to pay attention to. You can't work for script anymore. Seriously, you can't. If people work, they have to get paid.
No, but they can give John Eastman money.
Yeah,
it's a joke.
All right, you're just so glad to hear from you.
You're kind. All right, to the wall. LB's vote, I guess that's Lauren Boebert, was held in reserve. No, this is good. Should be needed. She explained herself very clearly on George's show. Yeah, I heard it, and I don't buy it. Wrong again, Peter. Many radio hosts got it, like George yesterday when he engaged his callers. You've turned into a grumpy old clickbait dude. You and JB need to retire. What, you and JB? Oh, JB. Who's JB? You and JB need to retire, but really this time. Call the radio show. It's like, come on, let's talk about this. It's exactly what they did. Because she said something on a talk show. Good morning, your Democrat caller. I want to thank, your Democrat caller, I see, misspelled. I want to thank him for personally what he said, and his constituents have done to my state of Colorado. Thank you for what you've done. Colorado's burning, and it's because of fools like him, meaning the last caller, red-blooded American fools. No, wait a minute. And once again, fights are won and fights are lost. As a kind of a buff boxing fan, in some fights, one thing about fighting in the championship changes, you got to knock the champion out. I mean, if you think you're going to get a belt just by having a good fight against the champion, no, you got to really beat the champion. Oftentimes, you got to knock the champion out. Some people win fights, some people lose fights. And so the difference is, well, maybe a better example was any sport. There are winners and losers, but when you get beat, and if you got a nickel's worth of class, you know that you got beat. And you go back to the drawing boards and say, why did we get beat? and these guys are incapable. They got beat, so it had to be Dick Wadhams' fault. Stop. Oh, JB equals Joe Biden. I see. JB.
Yeah, Pete, when you talk about that, the idea of the self-examination afterwards, the post-mortem, that I want some of the grassroots Republicans to call in and explain to me how you've come to the conclusion that given something like the Joe O'Dea, Ron Hanks issue in the last election, help me wrap my mind around how Ron Hanks would have done better statewide against Bennett. Because that's the argument.
Tina Peters?
Yeah, exactly. That's the argument.
Peterson?
Yeah.
Please,
you think that if you would have run Tina Peters instead of Heidi Ganahl at governor, do you think that would have been better? Explain to me what it is that the grassroots have
it's more
that
about,
make it more appealing.
This really goes back to Trump and Trump's lies. And Trump's lies that they were honchoed by my close personal friend, John Eastman. And so that when the lie begins, and it's almost a religious experience where the true believer, step back, non-believers, because I'm going to make it rain. And they have to do it. And it's to the great sadness and the demise of the future for my grandchildren, your children and grandchildren, and for yourselves. But don't kid yourself about why these votes took place or did not take place. In this state that turns the corner, Ken Buck, that was laughable. When I first saw it, I went, that's funny. And then when Lauren Boebert doesn't, and Ken Buck does, you know they're both doing it for political inside Colorado reasons. Ken Buck no longer, and so people send to me all this stuff that you actually believe that what Lauren said yesterday was the real truth. Come on. Look, I know from inside baseball, they had to be a lot of derriere smooching to get her to reappear on the radio show because George, rightfully so, was pointing out to the fun and games in After Dark. You can't do it. You just can't. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm not trying to change your mind. But I think it's hilarious to watch and to have talk show host or editorialist or whomever believe that that's the real reason that Ken Buck did what he did or Lauren Boebert did not. And as for Trump in New York, I watched some of that stuff. And it's like, come on. But then you watch Joe. I watched Joe on the picket line. Presidents don't go on picket lines. Having said that, the guy, remember in Michael Jackson, when they did, what's that dance? Done Thriller, the Thriller dance. And everybody shows up and they're zombies. It looked like Joe Biden's doing the Thriller dance, man. It was like his hands, done. And I'm going like, all right, Peter, this is what the country's come to. It's like Joe's doing the Thriller dance. and the UAW guys are looking at him like, what? All right. Dick Wadhams coming up. Zoom in time, 303-696-1971. Your calls right after this. Good morning, everybody. I am Peter Boyles in for George Brauchler, who will return tomorrow. And then Saturday morning, I get to be in here again at 9 a.m. And if you are a longtime Denver listener in terms of Denver's radio market, there once was the once and future king, Dr. Daddio, Jimmy Walker. And I haven't seen Jimmy in, a while. But I always had this great admiration. I went and watched him work a couple of times. And actually, he promoted the Jacksons. He brought the Jacksons. And he was quite the guy. So in studio, and the stories will be wonderful. Dr. Daddio, Jimmy Walker. To the wall we go. Did Miss Boebert get her rack enhanced? What a terrible thing to ask. What a terrible thing to ask. Boebert and Buck are targets of the blue state of Colorado. Conservatives should take a lesson from Democrats and support their party, but they don't. Ken Buck is avoiding Denver radio. All right. Here's the greatest caller in the world. Joe the caller. Good morning.
Joe from Arvada, remember.
Joe from Arvada.
Well, let me ask you a question that I asked you last time.
Yeah.
Who is going to be the Republican Party nominee, Peter?
Well, Peter, I have no idea at this point. Do you?
Okay, well, you see, that says everything.
Mike Lindell.
It pretty much lands right on you.
How so? I don't know.
Well, because
wait a minute, talking about Joe. We're going to do this with Joe. We're not going to play games with Joe. Joe
won the nomination.
No, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'll try this again. Joe, who's going to win the Super Bowl? Joe, who's going to win the Super Bowl?
You know, here's the
see. Joe doesn't know, but I'm supposed to know who's going to be the Republican nominee with this guy in court facing RICOs. Please. I don't know, Joe.
Probably the 49ers.
Okay, good. Then go bet your money on it.
But it isn't nearly as assured as Donald Trump being the Republican nominee.
Tremendous. Okay, now what's next?
Thank you.
All right. Okay, anything else?
Okay, the next question is, how is the future of Mike Pence working out for him?
What the hell? Why are you asking me these questions? I'm not their representative.
Because, Peter, you were the one that told us how great Mike Pence was going to be in this election.
I said, that's not true either.
Yes, you did.
No, why?
Well, go back and get what you said and put it up on there.
Listen to me one more time. I was never backed Mike Pence. Only thing I thought Mike Pence was incredibly brave in that terrible night and terrible day that happened on the 6th. But what that man did.
Hogwash.
All right, man, look, that's enough of that. What Pence did was he backed the Constitution against Donald Trump and people like that. And for that, Pence deserves your everlasting respect. That what he did was he held the line, would not do what my close personal friend John Eastman suggested Donald Trump tell him to somehow to avoid or abate the Constitution. I never backed Joe Biden. I never backed Mike Pence for president. Who's going to be I don't know. How would you know? I don't know what's going to happen this afternoon, let alone what's going to happen. So in the hours after the House of Representatives vote to oust Kevin McCarthy from the speakership, it is interesting to see what happens here in Colorado. Now, coming up on the other side is Dick Wadhams. Dick was the target of a piece that was published by the Colorado GOP, and it's entitled, "What a Bunch of Dicks, How Dick Wadhams and the Establishment Screwed the GOP." And it is full of holes. I mean, we'll try and take some of it apart. But I love the part, it's the opening couple of paragraphs, where Wadhams, and I'll just read it to you, although a former chairman of the Colorado GOP, is a prime example of the problems that plague Republicans. They're hanging it on this one guy, Dick Wadhams. While he wags his finger, he ignores his tenure that was marked by a series of electoral failures, to include John Hickenlooper's 2010 victory. Do you remember that election? I do. I was involved in it with Tancredo. Tancredo, and it said, I love how this line that almost made the GOP a minority party. No, what happened was people with half of the intelligence voted for Tancredo. Tancredo was running as an independent. The party and the Tea Party and others, I think, picked Dan Mays, and that becomes Wadhams' fault. Now we go to Frank. See how much time we got left. Frank, you're on a radio show. Good morning.
George, I'm sorry. You're sounding really healthy, and that's a good thing.
Thank you. I feel great. Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, good. I'm glad that maybe someday I'll need what you had, and I'll be okay too.
You will be.
So about the Lauren Boebert thing here, this whole thing we know has been a CF for quite a while. I'm talking about the entire.
I know what you mean.
Party.
I know what you mean.
Not just locally, but nationwide. And if we don't change something, it's not going to change.
Agreed.
And so even though this guy, I can't think of his name right now, who spearheaded this thing to ouster the speaker, he's a total jerk.
Gates. Okay. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Totally agree.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you have to make a deal with the devil occasionally, and that's what happened. I feel terrible for McCarthy, rather, because he's a good Christian man, and I think he was doing a good job. But I want, if one thing that comes out of this, if they have 12 individual funding bills in 45 days, that would be a good thing. Well, and then if they have another vote, they could vote McCarthy back in.
Now he said he doesn't want to come back in, but
right now, a month, 45 days from now, who knows?
You know,
the politicians.
I mean, your point's again well taken, but it looks like the majority leader is there's Steve Scalise, Jim Jordan, who's a Judiciary Committee guy, and then there's a guy named Kevin Hearn, who's a very key conservative leader, and people that I read and respect expect him to throw his hat into the ring. What's interesting to me is what leads into this, and these people who are being lionized by callers and others, they sided with the Democrats. And why one votes and why one doesn't, I think Frank was so significant.
The only one I don't fully understand is Nancy Mace.
I got 30 seconds, if you would please.
Okay. Well, the one thing I would like to say positive out of this is here you have a never Trumper in Buck, and you've got an always Trumper in Boebert, who are now working together in Colorado, and I think that's a good thing.
I think it's a hypocritical thing, artificial thing, and a giant lie. Love the call. Dick Wadhams coming back. Stay here. That'll get real good. 710 KNUS. morning, everybody. It's a Thursday, October 5, 2023. Good old 710 KNUS. We are Denver's talk station. I'm Peter Boyles, in for George. And, of course, I get to come back here this weekend. I do the Saturday 9 a.m. show. And, again, I'm plugging this one because I think it's going to be really sweet. In studio, Jimmy Walker, Dr. Daddio, radio legend, will join us this Saturday here on 710 KNUS. The weather, well, it's going to be a good one, 68 to high 60 on Friday. The weekend looks beautiful. Get up in the hills, get ready. There's snow in Winter Park. Having said all of those things, to set this one up, he's become a friend. He has been a longtime friend, longtime operative in the Republican Party. And this piece appears, what a bunch of dicks, how Dick Wadhams and the establishment screw the GOP. Ladies and gentlemen, what a bunch of dicks. My friend Dick Wadhams. First of all, do you believe that the claimant is that Ken DeGraff wrote this? Why do
no, Peter? Not
see. I'm like you. I don't know.
Not for a moment, Peter.
Yeah.
Dave Williams wrote that piece. He is a gutless coward. He wouldn't put his name on this. He talked this state rep down there who's only been around Colorado Springs in the Republican Party for a couple of years, but he talks this guy into signing it because he is a gutless coward and wouldn't put his name on this.
See, I didn't think that this DeGraff character wrote it. I mean, and I've known Dave Williams. I consider him, a friend. We disagree on so many things politically, but I really got the sense, and we'll see if he'll talk to us this morning, that he didn't write it. That
he didn't write it.
Yeah, DeGraff didn't write it.
Yeah. He claims that these are DeGraff's words, but they aren't. This is Dave Williams. He's a gutless coward. He won't, and he's driving the Republican Party into the ground, Peter. They're not raising any money. They're trying to kick off every unaffiliated voter in Colorado. They're trying to deny 900,000 Republicans the ability to vote in a primary. And he's a disaster. He's a liar, and that's the sum total of who this guy is. That's all there is to it.
Billy put a call in, see if he'll do the show this morning. I read it. You sent it over to us. We read it. It's not even historically accurate.
No.
The first charge against you, and Dick, of course, I'll just read it to you. Dick Wadhams, although the former chairman of the Colorado GOP, is a prime example of the problems that plague Republicans. While he wags his finger, he ignores his tenure that was marked by a series of electoral failures, to include John Hickenlooper's 2010 victory that almost made the GOP a minority party. Like, you're responsible. First of all, it was Tancredo who comes out, and the Republican establishment, I think, maybe including the Tea Party, chose Dan Mays. Is that true or not true?
The Republican establishment was essentially behind former Congressman Scott McGinnis in that primary seat. And then the Tea Party did rally around. They found this guy, Dan Mays, who was a total fraud. They believed he was the second coming as a Tea Party patriot. To their credit, they got their people out. They beat McGinnis at the state convention. They beat McGinnis in a primary. But remember, Pete, shortly after the primary, the media discovered that Mays had a fraudulent background. His biography didn't meet reality at all. And remember what happened. When that happened, all those wonderful Tea Party people, they dropped him like a hot potato.
Yes, they did.
They scampered into the tall grass. Boy, Pete, they had never even met Dan Mays. Dan Mays? Who's that? We don't know who he is. And Tom did get in that race, but the race was already lost at that point because the Tea Party had nominated such a candidate.
Well, what I always thought was interesting about that, because I was involved in it because of my friendship and relationship with Tom, is, and then there was she was wonderful, was Frida Poundstone. And actually, when Tancredo and I sit and talk, we talk about the phone call with Frida Poundstone, Dan Mays, and Tom and I on KHOW Radio. And Mays later wrote a pamphlet that I was really nailed or attacked, if you would, by Mays. But Tancredo is the one that almost makes the GOP a minor party, not you.
Well, exactly. And Peter, since they say that was such an electoral failure in 2010, let me remind those folks about something. First of all, we got 106,000 more Republicans than Democrats out to vote in that election. It was a massive turnout advantage that we out of the Colorado Republican Party got out to vote, which gave our candidates a huge advantage. So the Tea Party people, they nominate who manages to lose because he was fraud. Ken Buck, he was our Senate nominee, he just makes all kinds of mistakes, makes bad comments, and he loses to Michael Bennett. But down ticket, we unseated 2 statewide Democratic incumbents, which was the first time that had been done since 1974.
Yeah, sure.
We unseated 2 members of Congress, Democratic members of Congress. That hadn't been done since 1964. We elected a Colorado House of Representatives Republican majority, which was the first time in 8 years. But that sounds like electoral failure to me.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been for the Tea Party, of which a lot of the MAGA people today who believe the election was stolen, we would have won the governor's race. Yeah. And if Ken Buck had kept his mouth shut, we would have won the Senate race.
I could not agree more. Dick Wadhams is here. A nasty underground editorial appears entitled "What a Bunch of Dicks: How Dick Wadhams and the Establishment Screw the GOP." We'll spend just one more, and then I want to get into what you think about Boebert and everything. But so they write against you. They tell voters cycle after cycle that if Republicans nominate their milquetoast candidates and campaign with their unconvincing message, then the GOP will win again. Well, tell that to Joe O'Dea or Pam Anderson. By the way, has anyone heard anything from either of these flag bearers in our fight against totalitarianism? Nor have I. The silence is deafening. My reaction initially was, so Ron Hanks, the guy who takes a rifle and shoots copying machines, he would have beaten Bennett, or the other way around, Pam Anderson. They destroyed Pam Anderson. O'Dea, who I meet later, he came in and did the TV shot with us. I thought was a very nice man who had no idea what was going on, but he took the job. But did they think that their candidate was that lunatic Ron Hanks?
Wait, Pete, first of all, remember, Dave Williams supported Ron Hanks and Tina Peters in those primaries. But these people who run the party now, they absolutely do not believe that Donald Trump is an albatross across the Republican Party and the stolen election conspiracy theories. They blame the consultants and they blame the rhinos in the party when they refuse to acknowledge that Donald Trump has dragged down every Republican candidate since 2018.
Absolutely.
We have been annihilated because of him. And yes, I mean, Dave Williams he said he was going to hire Tina Peters as the quote election integrity director.
Yeah, they had her a job. Yeah.
I mean, give me a break. So you can trace all these problems, these extremities in the party right now on the guy who runs the party right now, Dave Williams. He is a disaster. They're raising no money. They barely are keeping a headquarters open. And by the way, since they have no staff, most of the time it's locked up and dark. Yeah. And now they're bringing in this idiot from Arizona to carry weight to be the speaker.
I love that.
Yeah.
Did they still send money to Eastman? Is Eastman still getting a check someplace?
He is still being paid by the Colorado Republican Party.
That's amazing.
To be their lawyer in this federal lawsuit.
That's amazing.
To kill the primary, unaffiliated voting in primary. Yeah.
He may not be a lawyer that much longer.
Well, that's what I read too. Yeah.
Or he may get. He's gotten that RICO in Atlanta. Yeah, and he's been the bar. I think there's 13 raps against him in the California bar, but that's only the beginning. Yeah. Here's I call it the funny ass approach. The only hope for the minority party in Colorado is to unite. All you guys are is doing fostering division. Wait a minute. So Wadhams gets sucker punched by whomever, I give him an opportunity to speak about why he got sucker punched, and it's our doing. All you guys are doing is fostering division. The truth, well, Dick, but the truth needs to be told.
Yeah.
And the truth is most important. Now, let me flip it over to the other side. My contention is that Ken Buck voted to oust the speaker for no other reason other than to kiss the derrieres of the kinds of people you're talking about. On the other hand, Lauren Boebert does support the speaker because she wants to clean the slate, reestablish herself as the nice little housewife, Republican elected official, not the gun-toting, Trumpist that she portrayed herself to be. I think that's why the two of them voted as they did. Your thoughts?
Peter, I could not agree more. I mean, you almost get whiplash watching Ken Buck dive to the right and Lauren Boebert dive to the left.
Yeah.
In there, I mean, it's comical, is what it is.
It truly is. Yeah.
When elected officials do that, it never works. I mean, you are what you are, and people are not going to be taken in by one vote.
But there's been plenty of media laydowns that won't. I mean, I haven't had during the week, on air, and it just happened to come down when all of this happens. But I mean, I'm watching it, and suddenly Ken Buck becomes a hero to these people who called him CNN Ken the day before. And Lauren, who, we've talked endlessly about this series of things that she's gotten herself involved in. And the guy from Aspen that she was dating, guy was having trans shows in his bar. And I thought to myself, that's just too good. And I don't know. I mean, and yet out of all of this, what a bunch of dicks.
I got to tell you, I will give Buck credit for one thing. He did stand up to the people in the Republican Party who were saying that the January 6th protesters were being unfairly treated and shouldn't have been prosecuted. I will say that. Yeah. But I don't know why he thought he had to dive to and I just don't understand that at all.
Well, I think it was to stop. There's and Dick Wadhams is here. Peter Boyles filling in for George Brauchler. I think it's almost like an adjective now or an active verb called "you get primaried," and I think they were sharpening their knives and laying in the weeds. And I think I know one person for real that was going to attempt a primary on Buck. I doubt. Well, who knows what the future brings? No predictions, but they were now. He now has the shield of having done the blood cutting or bloodletting for the I don't know what you call them, Republicans who run Colorado. He didn't do that because he wanted Kevin to go. He did it. No. He did it as self-protective.
I agree, Peter, and it just. And it's not, I don't know what his standing is within the 4th District right now. I will say, too, that I don't think it was very smart of Congressman Buck to publicly announce that that he's been talking to CNN or MSNBC or whoever for a national media job. Yeah. Because the message it sends to your the message it sends to your constituents is, I'm kind of tired of representing you. I'm going to go do this.
It's like the long goodbye. It's like, wait a minute, hold on. And you're going to actually, CNN represents in the tribal wars of cable television news. It ain't going to Fox. I mean, and by the way, I know you're a reader. I can't recommend a book more. It's called Hoax, about Fox News and what took place, and Roger Ailes and Trump and the Murdochs and all the internals at Fox News. Hannity.
Oh, thank you for telling me that.
It's called Hoax. I'm almost done with it. We'll do it on the weekend show. But man, what a book! And and it's an insight to what you and I were watching and thinking. So, Ken Buck, and I heard from the wall, because he didn't get the CNN contract. That's why Ken Buck dove into the right. Anything's possible.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
But why? Let's go over it one more time. You're the target of this thing. Why? Yeah. Why do you think Buck voted as he did?
I do think that he was starting to feel some heat from the right in the 4th congressional district, and he wanted to reestablish some credibility with him, and that's the only thing I can figure.
Me too.
And your observation about Congresswoman Boebert is the same. I mean,
sure. Of course.
After everything's gone on with her, she wanted to kind of have some moderation to her image, I guess.
As they say in showbiz, clean up your act.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think Lauren.
By the way,
yes.
Yeah. By the way, in that Williams authored a hit piece full of lies. He gives the impression that I've made all this money off the Colorado Republican Party over the last 12 years.
Yeah.
Guess what? I haven't received a dime from the Colorado Republican Party since 2011. I was a paid state chairman. But since then, I haven't taken a dime. I have only been a consultant on one campaign since then in Colorado. All those other guys since then, I was not involved with. I helped Heidi Ganahl get elected to CU regent.
Okay.
When Donald Trump was losing Colorado by 4, Heidi Ganahl was winning CU regent. Another electoral failure on my part, I guess.
No, I mean, but these people, it's almost like I have this new theory that Biden and Trump need each other. They legitimately need each other.
Yeah.
And this wing of the GOP cannot look at itself in the mirror and say it's our fault. We split the party, we divided the party, we got the party defeated. The stench of Donald Trump. We can't say that, so it's got to be Dick Wadhams.
Yep. Yeah. That's right.
I really believe that.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
And as you pointed out, Ron Hanks and Tina Peters were on their election.
Guys shooting adding machines or something. But Biden and Trump, they need each other. And you get to the point where they can only survive because they're not the other guy.
Yeah, that's right.
I watched Joe Biden on that picket line.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it. It's like the Michael Jackson video from when they're doing the zombie walk. I'm going like, this fill in the blank is the president of the United States of America. Then I watched the other guy in the hallway yesterday morning screaming at the media about the fraud trial. I'm thinking to myself, what hath God wrought? I'm like, why now?
Peter, it will be so depressing if we have to choose between those two clowns. I mean, it's just between Biden and Trump. I can't even tell you how sickening that is to me.
You want to do something that's really funny, and again, the Lion and Winter. There's on YouTube the Mike Lindell deposition. Have you seen that? Have you seen it?
No.
Well, Mike Lindell, I used to get all these calls. Mike Lindell's got the truth. Well, you wait for Mike, and Mike's going to show you what a liar you are, and Mike's got the answer, and all this kind of stuff. Then he's gotten sued here in Colorado. So this deposition, it's insanity. I mean, it's like you watch Trump rage. He's got nothing on Lindell, and you can go to any. Billy, maybe we can play some of that this morning. It's a YouTube cut. I never saw anything like it. I mean, he's calling this lawyer a scumbag, and he's slamming the lawsuit, and I'm going. And you're the one that I was told forever was going to bring the answers here to stop me and wreck this radio station. Wait for Mike. How much money did Mike Lindell give Peters?
Well, he claimed in that one television clip that he was something like a couple of $100,000, as I recall, some big figure. And then he kind of pulled back from that.
Yeah.
So who knows where the truth is?
Well, I think that's where the lawsuit is like, you're not allowed to do this. But, and I think they hired Steinberg, I think was their lawyer that they hired. And
he left.
He broke off. Yeah. He broke off.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder because he is an excellent, respected attorney. Oh. And for him to walk away from her, I think says something.
Yeah.
I don't know, but.
So to the wall. Yeah, it's so funny, isn't it, Peter? One of the presidential hopefuls is being taken out by the judicial system. I wonder if Trump is found not guilty on all these indictments, you'll change your tune and realize the Democrats are weaponizing anything they can to take out Donald Trump. And so I flip it back to you. So if he's found guilty, will you vote for him? I mean, no. And he's got the criminal beefs coming. No, come on. I mean, but this is how talk radio works. But I don't mind responding. Will you change your tune if you realize the Democrats are weaponizing everything? Sure. Now flip it back the other way. Will you, sir or ma'am, will you vote for Trump if he's found guilty? But it won't matter.
No, it won't. It won't.
I mean, if he gets criminally indicted with my good friend John Eastman under that RICO in Georgia, it won't matter. You know, if Eastman gets his ticket punched in California, they pull his law license, will the Republican Party still send him a check? Sure.
I bet they will.
Of course they will.
Of course they will.
I mean, I just can't believe, and and I've said this once before, and it's only just an example, and I'm not singing the blues, but in the aftermath of that John Eastman hang up, which I think I was set up for, but it's okay. I haven't had one person, Dick, call me, email me, write me a snail mail, say, Peter, I'm sorry that happened, or I was wrong. Not one. I mean, and not one. And the barraging that took place and the attacks and everything, not one person said, you were right about Eastman.
Nope. Well, they still believe him.
Of course, that's my point.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my point. It's like they step back non-believers.
Yep.
I don't know. So what's going to happen? Are you going to do anything about this? You're going to write one back to them, or?
No, in fact, I did a radio show yesterday and with you this morning, and probably do a couple more. But this guy is such a fraud, Pete. I mean, he really is, and he's being exposed for what a fraud he is. And I didn't. But on top of being a fraud, he's a coward. He wouldn't put his own name on the piece he wrote.
I wondered. Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, it's
but just the first
pathetic.
The first paragraph was about something that I was involved with, along with Tom Tancredo, and that was Tommy's run for governor. And they blame you for what happened. I know what happened.
He is either profoundly ignorant or he's a liar.
No, it's one of the other.
On that one, I'm not sure. He's probably both. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I have a relationship with the guy, but what I think is interesting is I was involved in that with Tommy, with Mays, Frida Poundstone, all these other people that played out in it. And how you get blamed for that is beyond me.
And the very people throughout that primary process, Pete, that were beating up on me as the state chairman, because I wasn't being fair to Dan Mays. Yeah. He's the guy who can win the governor's race. So he wins the primary. He's exposed for fraud. Those people abandon him, head to the tall grass, and then they blame me for his loss.
My point was, I don't recall you being involved in it at all, unless it was something that I missed. You weren't. No,
I was not involved in his. And I as state chairman, you are supposed to be neutral in primaries, which I studiously was. And I could see the train wreck that Mays was going to be, but I couldn't do anything about it. I mean, these Tea Partiers were just, oh my God, they were in love with the guy. He is. Here, a true Tea Party patriot will be our next governor. Yeah, right.
Well, and it was Tommy and I and the late, great Frida Poundstone. And Tommy and I still crack up about when Mays suddenly his phone wouldn't work. And she had him, a dead bang, and she had him. and they're Republican. But how you got, and this is the second paragraph of the piece, but they blame you. And I said, well, I don't, and I was knee deep in that one. And I said, I just simply don't remember Wadhams coming up at all. And yet,
well, if next time you talk to Dave Williams, ask him his justification for saying that.
Well, I'm planning on trying to do it.
Didn't write the letter.
Well, again, but I plan on trying to do it before we get out of here this morning at 10.
Good.
All right, sir.
Good.
We will talk. All right. Thanks, Dick. All right, man.
Thank you.
303-696-1971. Lines are two lines are open. Let's just take a quick turn. Head to the barn. Thursday, 68 the high. Tomorrow, 60. And Saturday, 75 degrees. Dr. Thorpe, you ready? 3, 2, 1. Billy.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Morning, everybody. 710 KNUS, Denver's talk station. I'm Peter Boyles, sitting in for George Brauchler. And back on Saturday for the show, I have 9 to noon in studio, the legend, Jimmy Walker, Dr. Daddy-O. And it's been fun to do this on the Saturday show, to bring in all these different radio legends and have them tell stories. On last Saturday, we had DMAC with us, Darren McGee, who had been let go at the Fan and came over and sat in the studio, and he rolled it. I mean, it was really great talk radio, not because of me, but because of DMAC was here. I'm so looking forward to Saturday with Jimmy. He is one of those rare things, and in our business, they use a term called O&O, owned and operated. There was radio stations, they were NBC O&Os, owned and operated. And then the notion of black radio, and Dr. Daddy-O, KDKO, was a black O&O. And particularly in that time frame, it was fairly rare. And Jimmy also was a promoter, and I think they had the Jacksons, be it as so many other different people. And that radio station, KDKO, if you're a talk radio aficionado, that signal, that stick, as they say, Jimmy sold it to Phil Anschutz. And if you remember Ralph and Alice, and there once was I think, Billy, did you work at Ralph? I thought, no, you didn't work at Ralph. You worked at Alice. So that was it. You worked at Alice. But there was an attempt to put a liberal radio show on the air, an entire liberal station, if you remember Air America and those attempts. And every one of them failed, and they failed brutally, failed financially. So I believe it was Phil Anschutz's son-in-law. And don't hold me to this, but that's how I remember it. But it was obviously Phil's money. They bought KDKO, and they rejacketed the calls, and they made the calls Ralph, because some brilliant marketeer thought to himself or herself, who was Alice married to? Alice was married to Ralph, the Honeymooners, the Cramdens. So they thought that was a ha-ha. I remember looking at it thinking, why does this work? So it failed. And I think it's a jazz station now, whatever it is. But anyway, that was KDKO. And Daddy sold the whole outfit. And having said that, so we're in open lines. We go to Marty. Thanks for waiting, man. You're on a radio show. Good morning.
Well, good morning, sir. And I was just absolutely, let me just put it on. I was absolutely just shed by the producer on the subject of how clean the 2020 election was. And I'm of the opinion that it was not clean.
Okay.
And I go to specific states that they changed significant rules to make sure that we got mail-in ballots and that we didn't have to verify signatures blah, blah. Now, I know
hang
some
on.
folks,
whoa,
they don't want to go there, Peter,
whoa.
in the sense of,
I do.
it's too scary to think
I do.
there was
Stop.
deceit done on
Stop.
under the nose of the American.
What is this? COVID changed a lot of the rules that the state of Colorado was mail-in for as long as I can remember. Marty, if you want to have a conversation, brother, I'd love to have it with you. So I'm going to try and bring you back again. Let's have a conversation. Fair enough? All right. I guess he's gone. All lecture radio. Like, scream at you. Billy, did you come across any of that Mike Lindell deposition? When we'll find it. It's unbelievable, and is being deposed here. And I remember how many times I know how many times here I would get calls about Lindell's answers. Lindell's going to bring you're going to be fired after Lindell speaks. And Lindell came here and he hustled some money, I think, to Tina Peters, and so many people went up to those Dakota get-togethers. Now he's being sued. Now, you got to get full value of this. I don't know when this took place. It took place like just this year, I think. It was in springtime, March. Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, this is the savior. This was Donald Trump's savior. Now he's being deposed.
What you're saying, okay?
Don't sit and scold me already, mister. I'll do whatever I have to do. So I don't, you're just a lawyer. You're an ambulance chasing lawyer. So don't start with me. I got all day. I'll take as much time as you want. So let's go. You're not my boss. You're just a lawyer, frivolous lawyer. So go. Don't start scolding me.
Oh, I'm asking questions. I'm not going to scold you.
Go ahead.
So let me finish my question, okay?
Yes.
I tend to be a slow talker.
Good for you.
I'm from Texas originally.
Good for you. I got all day. We'll make a week of this. How about that? Go ahead.
Probably up to your lawyer, but I'm happy to stay as long as you'd like.
Just keep going.
All right. Why'd you call me an ambulance chaser?
What?
Why did you call me an ambulance chaser?
Because you are. This is a frivolous case. And if you're representing this guy and you've read this case, you are a disgusting lawyer, period. That's my right to say. You want to sue me too, Mr. Ambulance Chaser? Are you working on contingency or consignment with the guy? What are you? No, I can't believe anybody would take this. This is absolutely disgusting. It's a disgrace to our country. It's a disgrace to you.
Anything else?
No, that's it. You asked me the question. I answered it.
Right.
No,
I said
that'll be. I mean, that goes on and on. But this is the prize example of, and I'm reading this book, Hoax, and I've read all the things about the Fox News trials and how they have the kicking money now. The heavy loss they had to Dominion. Well, it's much the same thing. When Fox News is being sued by Dominion and all these on-airs and all of these callers and this idiot Lindell, why would Fox News's attorneys not come here and get these talk show hosts that live in Denver and say these things, or Lindell or any number? How about John Eastman, and bring them to the trial, which never happened. They settled on the courthouse steps. But why would they not have been brought in as witnesses? Because, my God, all you got to do is read the wall this morning or listen to callers, listen to this idiot being deposed. The election was stolen. I can prove it. Well, instead of paying $827 bazillion that Fox had to pay, why not bring in talk show hosts and experts that they put on the air, or Lindell himself, who you can see how much heat he can take? Fox could win simply by saying, well, these people they say there's the truth. Well, the truth is going to happen, but it's going to happen in a very bad way. Peter, for years you were the guy who fought against a corrupt system. Now you've sold out because your liberal industry can't support Trump. You must have been assimilated. God. See, the truth cannot exist in their world. It just cannot exist. It's very sad in a business, an art form, a craft, a skill that once was AM radio has now turned into what it's turned into. When the truth is found to be lies, something inside you dies. Grace Slick. All right. So, and I listened to Prager do a job on a guy the other day. I was telling Billy, man, this guy dead bang had him on Trump, and he flips him on the guy. I'm going, that was good, but it was very dishonest. So, Colorado Republicans, what now? How now, brown cow? 303-696-1971. Good morning, everybody. Peter Boyles in for George Brauchler. 710 KNUS on a Thursday morning. Beautiful day, October 5, 2023. 68 will be the high. Tomorrow drops down, but 75 on Saturday. Dick Wadhams was with us this morning at 7. And we're got a call out to Dave Williams to get him on the show. But this attacking the bunch of dicks, and it doesn't add up. I mean, it just simply doesn't make sense. And we've been talking about why Lauren Boebert did not vote and why, of course, Ken Buck did. Where do you want to start? We'll start here. All right, we'll go with Bill. Hey, Bill, you're on a radio show. Good morning. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Pete. I wanted to talk about the photo radar that Aurora instituted, I don't know, about a month ago or something. They were bragging about it.
Okay. I don't know. First of all, I don't know anything about it, so go ahead.
Yeah, they were setting up new places for photo radar.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I think there's a Colorado law. In fact, I have it in front of me. It says you have to be served in person in order to get a ticket. So I think all those tickets would be worthless. So I don't know why. I guess they were trying to find some gullible people.
I don't have a response. Because I thought, this is what I thought. I thought that, and I, do with this as you may. For instance, I got speeding tickets almost every year going to Sturgis. And I'm serious, as a heart attack.
Sure.
Going to Sturgis. And I always got them in Wyoming until Kenny Deal showed me that we can go to Sturgis through Nebraska. And but they don't pull you over, but they have a helmet law and it's all stupid stuff. But point of it is, and I said to, I forget who it was, but I said, well, you're giving me a ticket in Wyoming for speeding. And back apparently in the day, you had to pay on the spot or they were going to keep you. Yeah. And I heard, well, they give you a ticket, but if you don't want to pay it, that's fine. But when you go to get your license plate renewals, they're going to clamp on you. Now, I don't know if that's true. Number two, the photo radar that you're talking about, I've been told that you can throw those tickets away if you want to. Man, I'm hesitant about that one too.
I had 5 friends that did it, and they were not. They could go ahead and get their registrations of next year. So they had no effect.
Yeah. So I mean, I've listened to people say, if you get one of those tickets, just chuck it. My luck, my luck is it would be like, I get pulled over for speeding and they'd find out I threw away a ticket.
Yeah.
I don't know. Bill, I don't
know. You have 90 days to pay it. Otherwise they have a, a guy that serves you.
Yeah.
Then after that, so to me, if you're going to look out your window or your door for 90 days if if you don't recognize them, don't answer the door.
Well, remember we always did that. That's who is it? No, brother, man, I don't know. I mean, I
had a friend that was served on day 88 of the 90, and he said, "Why?" I said, "Why'd you answer the door?" He said, "I wasn't thinking."
My mentor is the late great Bob Lee, who got served on a divorce, and we're working a show together, and this guy comes walking up, and he says, "Are you Bob Lee?" And I'm thinking, well, the guy's like a listener. I go, "No, man, Bob's right over there." Bang! Wow. The old man never let me up on that one. I didn't know, but I thought it was like, the guy coming up, "Are you Stephen Tubbs?" No, there, he's right there, and so the guy said, "You Bob Lee?" And no, I'm Peter Boyles. I pointed, I said, "There's the old man. They served him."
Oh, geez.
I know it.
That's a good story.
It's a true story. We had a band. We were doing all you could. I was telling somebody, we used to be able to do this. It was called All the Beer You Can Drink for $1. And
Draw night.
Brother,
Draw night.
Was that what it's called? We did it in country bars. And Bob and I, with the late Paul Murray, and we'd get some seriously slop beer, like Slitch or Schmitz or something. And we leave. Well, no, not Lowenbrow. Lowenbrow's a good beer. I'm getting hit with the button. Bill, funny call in the morning, man. Thanks, everybody. We continue on the other side. Jimmy Walker, Dr. Daddio with me on Saturday. It's going to get good. Stay here. He isn't. He's Peter Boyles. Okay. Morning, everybody. On a Thursday morning, October 5. George is in Asheville, I think. Is that what you guys said where he was? And back tomorrow, 2023. Good old 710 KNUS. Peter Boyles back in the saddle. It feels good. It's been a really amazing morning. The 710 KNUS Weather Center weather says 68 the high today. Tomorrow, Friday, 60 and 75 on Saturday. Saturday, I now have this 9 to noon. They're almost at 9 to noon radio show every Saturday here on 710 KNUS. Last week in studio was DMAC, Darren McGee, who had been let go from the Fan. We've had a lot of old-time radio guys on the show. And this one, Dr. Daddio. If you're a Denverite and you grew up and there was a black radio station, they were called Black O&Os. We talked about it earlier. And Daddio owned and operated KDKO. He's a legend himself. And I haven't seen him in a while. We were always friends. And Daddy's going to do the show this Saturday. He'll come in at about 9 o'clock. He'll come in about 10. Show starts at 9. And we'll listen to the stories because they're great. All right. So not getting to do a weekly show. Things happen this way. It's just all happenstance. It's mathematics. But I have been watching this Ken Buck, Lauren Boebert issue. And it's like the nose on your face. Everybody is complexing it and doing everything they can, mooching on smooching derrieres to get these people to speak. Look, this is fairly simple. Ken Buck did what he did. Remember CNN Ken? He did what he did to oust the speaker to CYA from the lunatics who wrote such things as what a bunch of dicks, how Dick Wadhams and the establishment screwed the GOP. And as to think that Ron Hanks was going to be somewhat of a better candidate, or Tina Peters, or the rest of that insanity. So what I watched Ken Buck do is he says, hey, I'm with you guys. I'm really one of you. I'm really one of these fringy conservative guys that locked on to the speaker, and the speaker had to go. Conversely, Lauren Boebert doesn't vote. I mean, you would think at this moment they would have had reversed roles, but it didn't happen. So thinking Lauren Boebert, who has been caught in all kinds of interesting compromising moments, now she's really the Republican housewife who ran for Congress and won. It's kind of like Mr. Smith goes to Washington, and she does not vote to dump him because she's trying to clean up her act. Both of them are doing those things. Buck, why did Ken Buck vote to oust? There's no track record to do that. He does it to placate the sort of Dave Williams, who we've invited on the show this morning. Want to get Dave on. The Dave Williams wing, how's that? And why does Boebert go the other way? Because she's connected to the Dave Williams wing, and she wants to shed that. So I think these things are wonderful to watch. I don't know where we go from here. We go to Dean. Dean's the first caller of the hour. Dean, you're on a radio show. Good morning.
Hi, Peter. Thank you. Hey, listen, you've been a part of my life for over 30 years. And, you know, I can't hate you, Peter, but there are two issues that I just constantly have a problem with. Two issues that I just cannot understand. The first one is I lost respect for you and your show in 2021 when I called and Billy refused to play the Illinois Department of Public Health director who said, quote, just because you are listed as a COVID death, that doesn't mean it was COVID that killed you.
I don't know.
Billy refused to get that on the air.
Stop. First of all, I don't know anything about that. Number two, why is that significant to hate me?
Well, I lost respect for your show when you guys would not let me get that point across. And that video still exists on YouTube.
Let me make it clear. I really don't care. I don't care if you respect or disrespect the show. My concern was, do people listen to it?
Well, do as many listen today?
I don't do the show anymore. I'm filling in, bro.
Right.
I mean, I haven't done.
Peter, I don't want to get nasty. I really don't.
You can do whatever you want to do. This is, you're an adult.
I don't.
Well, then don't. But I haven't listened to me. Stop again. There was a time with this radio show, and I called it, the little engine that could. It was a 5,000 watt directional AM radio station. We beat KOA. We beat KHOW. I did that. Now, that I don't know what the ratings are now. I don't do this show. I don't do a Monday through Friday. I do a Saturday morning show that looks pretty good. It's a financial success. So, I mean, you can be as mad as you want or dislike it as much as you want to. I'm sitting in for Brauchler. This is Brauchler's show now. It's not mine.
All right, Peter. And if I can leave you with the second thing that continuously leaves me scratching my head.
All right.
And that is that with all we saw with Russia collusion, okay, isn't it at least possible that at least some of these court cases against Donald Trump are more of the same?
Well, anything is possible if you use that term. But look, have you been watching in this trial in New York? The first witnesses that are on are these people who worked for Donald Trump, his company, or they hired accountants, and they bear responsibility for financial statements that now the New York says is fraud. Trump, of course, denies any wrongdoings. The trial is, and I think part of it is, is what's at stake for him and his real estate empire. And I think it's significant. The pretrial ruling is under appeal, but I look at these things objectively. You had Donald Bender, who prepared the financial statements for years. He testified on Tuesday that the Trump organization did not always supply all the information needed to produce documents. Another accountant, Cameron Harris, testified his work on the 2021 statements involved checking information provided by Trump's company to obvious errors that begin, again, formatting this presentation. They go on to bring people on that worked for Donald Trump. Now, that's as far as I've gotten, brother, unless you're ahead of me. So, like I said, I think the smartest thing Donald Trump should have ever done, and here's somebody to back up your, Peter Boyles has lost his mind. Okay, please find it for me. But I guess what I'm saying to you is to someone like yourself, and I take it as I'm not doing the radio show that you want me to do.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just scratching my head wondering how a person so smart can just be so convinced at this point.
Of what?
Of the things you believe.
For instance. Tell me, I'm listening.
I don't want to get into January 6th.
Well,
what do you feel about January? What do you feel about January 6th?
I believe it was an attempt to overthrow the Constitution.
Well, I believe it was a setup.
Well,
and yes, unfortunately, there were a bunch of morons there that fell for it. But it was a setup, and they got the image that they wanted.
My close personal friend John Eastman was the prime mover on that. He was herking the Constitution. What you ought to do, and you're a bright guy. I remember your calls, actually, Dean. I remember certain people. What they tried to do, and it's never to be forgiven. That the history of this country is president to president, from Jefferson, on. These people have, in some cases reluctantly, handed over the reins of state. There's no evidence to support what these people attempted to do, and they attempted to abort the Constitution. Somebody called me up screaming about Pence. I think Pence, as they said, stood in the doorway. I think what Pence did was incredibly brave. It doesn't make me a Pence supporter. It just says this was a moment. You can't do this to this document. You can't do this to this sense of power that gets transferred. And oftentimes, I mean, I finished this new Truman book. Truman and Eisenhower ride together to Ike's inaugural. They don't talk. The entire ride, they don't say a word to each other because Truman dislikes Eisenhower at that point so badly. They can be that way, but you can't forgive it. You can do what you may, and you can believe what you want to believe, but the time is coming. Eastman's time's coming. He's been RICO'd in Georgia. He's going to get disbarred.
Okay, well, when is the time coming for people that got on national television and said, we have the evidence of Russia collusion?
Listen to me, brother. I'm not responsible for them. I'm not responsible for what anybody. I'm responsible for what I say. And I say what I watch. Listen, I mean, I wish you're in the room. We'd shake hands. What I'm saying to you is what those people did was an attempt. They built gallows and things like that. You can believe Potemkin Village stuff until the cows come home, but they did it, and we'll see what happens. No predictions.
All right, Peter.
All right, you take care of yourself. All right, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we go to Don. Don, you're on the radio show. Good morning. Happy Thursday.
Hey, I was going to fill in a few gaps as far as the radio station concerned, KDKO. It's now KPLS.
It's a jazzer. Yeah, it's a jazzer, isn't it? I think so.
It's not jazz. It's not jazz. It's a, we do have Kubo, of course, and Stephen Tubbs like to listen to them.
Let me back you up because I want you to tell the story, because back it up. On Saturday, you've called before. I love you. You know more radio history, I think, and I'm a geek, but you know.
I try to.
You know it better than I do. I mean, it's so when Daddy comes here, and he comes up out of Houston, I'm almost sure, and they have I think it was there a black station prior to KDKO.
Well, the station was. I mean, of course, I was looking. I'm going by Wikipedia, but the station was. There was a guy named Bob Rubin, and it was first signed on as did country music.
Right.
Then it became KMOR.
Yeah, okay.
And then KDKO came around in '67, and they had a good long run.
Yeah. So 67.
1967.
Okay. All right. So that's, and then, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Again, I apologize.
But no problem. But I'm just saying currently it is a Christian talk format, and don't under the call sign KPLS. And I'm trying to look it up, but I think they're owned by a Christian radio.
Let me stop you. That's Pillar of Fire. That's not KDKO. Pillar of Fire.
That's KPLS. KPOF.
That may
Pillar
be.
of Fire.
Are you sure?
Yes, AM 910 KPOF has been around for years.
Okay, I'll take your word.
So, and I mean, and their sister stations, both on FM in Cincinnati and New York City, or suburban New York, do a Christian adult contemporary format similar to Caleb.
Okay. All right. So, that makes all the sense in the world. When Daddy-O sold it, and the guys who owned, actually it was Anschutz's money for his son-in-law, and they tried to make it into a liberal talk station. And
it was Clear Channel iHeart that really brought that in with AM 760, which is now Freedom 93.7.
I know. Well, with respect again, because I was there, there
could have been some liberals, but it was AM, but it was Clear Channel iHeart that had Air America.
And Air America, I didn't say it was Air America. I said a format like Air America. Air America was on 760, and it flopped. But what's happened to what people always ask? Well, why doesn't liberal radio? Why do you have to all be conservatives? Well, liberal radio doesn't work. It's flopped every time people have tried it. And Ralph was an attempt to have a liberal station in town.
And I think, and then Ralph, I think, was on 1280, and it was kind of a way to play on Alice 105.9 at the time. In fact, their station voice said, "Why name a station named Alice? Why name a station Alice? Why not name it Ralph?" And that was a response to that. And that didn't. And I think Ken Hamblin was on Ralph.
No,
if I'm not mistaken.
No, I don't think Kenny worked at Ralph. I think that Ralph was those guys worked at 710 KNUS when the Martishangs owned 710. And when I worked here the first time, it was owned by Sandusky Broadcasting out of Ohio. And then
they owned that when it was on 105.9, which is now Alice.
But that Alice, and then the guys that had Alice, I think were the Anschutz money or some kind of money connected to Anschutz. And then they went to Daddy-O, and then they bought the stick, and they made that stick became Ralph. And Jimmy will tell the story on Saturday. I hope
sure, he'll have the knowledge because that station also during the 2010s was 93.7. That would usher in Freedom 93.7, and that actually had Hal Moore in his final days on the radio.
Yeah, he was playing tunes.
And the rock was basically a jack-like format, or adult hits as they call it in the industry, which is kind of an offshoot of classic hits, but most of them, for the most part, are jockless.
No, you're right.
But the rock did have some personality.
Everything you say is true. It's like I remember we were talking. Lee Larson and I went. I spent like 4 hours with Lee on Monday, and we were talking about radio and formatics, and there was a coffee cup, and Stefan mentioned it on the shoot. Stefan wasn't part of that, but they had a trophy case in the hallway at iHeart, and it goes back into the days of General Electric when Berg was alive and we were working for GE, and it was a combination. If you took the ratings that Q1035 that later becomes the Fox with Lewis and Florwax, that was an automated FM. But if you took that number and then you took the KOA morning news number, it was something like, I don't know, a 19 or a 20. I forget what it said, but they put out a promotional coffee cup to give to advertisers. And there was one of them in the trophy case at iHeart or at Clear Channel or General Electric. But I thought, wow, those were staggering numbers. And like I said to that last caller, I beat KOA. I beat KHOW. You know, we did it with this little engine that could, because you do, I think, the kind of radio that people want. And I think that's gone.
Well, and then you talk about progressive talk. Well, what's proven to work is really
entertainment,
public media news talk.
No, entertainment. You got to, first of all, Limbaugh. No one knew it like Limbaugh. You got to be entertaining. And I think it's what's happened to Stern. Stern's gone mad. I mean,
Stern's on satellite, and he's made his money.
No, I'm not talking about making his money. He's proclaiming. I mean, I got to work during the Ramseys with Don Imus, and they would have me on by phone. And I got this like kind of shirt-tailed friendship with Imus. And, you know, and we still do it in this business. When you got a guest coming on the phone, you know, you ask them questions, especially something that was an ongoing quote unquote mystery, the Ramseys. So Imus wanted to know, you know, the most recent event, and I was lucky enough to know the most recent events. Then he could lead me. He'd ask me, "Oh, isn't it true that?" And so it made him look good. It made him look like he knew what he was doing. And of course, it made me look like I knew what I was doing. So we would have these conversations off air. He's a good guy. I mean, you know, Don Imus, but they got Don Imus. You know, they nailed Don Imus. but he was. I mean, believe me when I tell you.
Well, you landed on WABC, and the Sid Rosenberg was able to carry on his legacy.
Oh, I know, but just my inner. It's like I say this about people. I don't care, like, how do you treat me and mine? And that's how you see the guy. You don't see the guy how other people see the guy. See the guy how he treats you. And people talk about Imus, and there's been books and things written about Imus. And he and I talked about getting into recovery and, all the stuff that he did. But you listen to him in his prime, he was a gorilla. And my boss, Kelly Michaels, now has the con Billy had to take off. The whole thing with Hulk Hogan that took place with a disc jockey. You want to jump in on this? Or no, he says no, he doesn't want to. But there was the jock that Bubba the Love Sponge and Hulk Hogan and all this stuff. If you get a minute, and I got to jump, Joe Rogan on his podcast did a podcast with Hulk Hogan. I've never seen anything that good. I've never heard anything or watched it. Hogan put his hands down, dropped his hands, and Rogan was so good. And they talked about Bubba the Love Sponge and what happened, and and it was like this. It's a radio story, but it's not. And Hogan ends up collecting all that money, and just craziness. But it's who's involved in it? Bubba the Love Sponge. The Love Sponge was a radio, and Kelly worked with him, lived with him. I think Kelly said he was a good guy. I don't know.
I'll leave you with a few things. Where the liberals work is the NPR stations, especially CPR News.
Yeah.
And politically wise, I will say that the 8 Republicans that decided to oust Kevin McCarthy were not exactly fans of Donald Trump. They were kind of left center establishment, or more or liberal in certain issues.
I don't think it had anything to do with Trump. Although Trump said to them, shut the government down. He wanted it. That was just to flex his muscle. And when Buck makes his move,
but those guys were not Trump supporters. Those 8 were not supporters of Trump.
No, that's the weird thing. But what Buck does, he wants to give the illusion that he is now part of that wing, and Lauren Boebert, for not doing it, wants to give the illusion that she is no longer. And
Buck is just basically sticking his finger to the wind.
Absolutely. No, what do you do? I got to ask you something, then I got to pause. You've called shows and you really are onto this business. What do you do?
Well, we talked about it before, and now I work at Ross stores in Colorado Springs.
What did you do?
I was out of work for a while, but I did some odd jobs here and there along the way. Did the census.
Okay. No. Did you gig? Were you on air?
Oh, yes, I was. I did gig mostly college stations. The old KPC, which is now Extra Music 102.1 in Colorado Springs, and KTSC FM at CSU Pueblo.
Wow.
And I did have a real paying job with KWYD AM 1580, which is now Tigra FM.
Yeah. Good for. I mean, I always love your calls because you're very bright and you're always one leap ahead. And
I'm always I'm just on the outside looking in. For the most part, for all these times, but I love to read the trades and radio history. And my dad, I talked about my dad. He grew up on you. He became your favorite radio talker. All that. I mean, he followed you to almost every radio station, maybe the exceptions of K-How the very first time, and K-Big. But otherwise, he followed you to most radio stations you were on.
Is he still with us?
He passed away in 2015, and we talked about that before. Christmas Day.
Oh. Yeah. You take care of yourself. And I hope
you have a good one. I hope to talk to you again.
I hope you hear Daddy on Saturday.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Kelly Michaels got the con. It was a time to pause. He's going to tell me yes, no, maybe. I say, I don't know the format. Just say, okay, Peter, so I can tell Crowley we're going to pause. All right, Mark, get ready. we have two lines open, 303-296-1971. Wadhams was on at 7 o'clock. We'll talk more about that. 9 to noon on Saturday is my real show. And in studio, we were just talking about it, Jimmy Walker, Dr. Daddy-O, this Saturday. All right, sir, let's take the turn.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Here we go. Kelly Michaels got the con. Mark Crowley's got the YouTube stream. And people were saying, what is on your shirt? They're luchadors. Do you know the masked wrestlers of Mexico? And I was gifted this shirt. You see, stand up, Kel. They're luchadors. And anyhow, 710 KNUS Denver's Talk Station, Thursday morning, October 5, 2023. The Ken Buck vote, this bizarre editorial aimed at Dick Wadhams, Trump on trial, the media. We'll go to David. David, thank you. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you for taking my call. All these attacks on Trump kind of reminds me of all the attacks on Jack Phillips. The government comes after you. There's one attack, then another, then comes another. I'm waiting to see when another attack comes on Jack Phillips.
Well, the Supreme Court has agreed to hear the Phillips case.
Yeah, I realize that. And that's what I'm saying. The government comes after you. They don't stop. They'll find one way or another. Donald Trump right now has 4 charges on him. Jack Phillips continues to get attacked. And
no, there's no similarity.
Wait a minute.
No, you wait a minute. You wait a minute. Jack Phillips is not being charged with anything criminal. What Jack Phillips is being charged with is politically
civil
correct.
Rights.
Yes, political
civil rights. Civil rights.
Political correctness.
Yeah, but either way, he's being charged and it's costing him money.
Is it
costing money?
And I go every time and fundraise for Jack.
Well, because it's costing you money, and that's exactly what's happening. The next person that's going to be attacked, believe me, Peter, the next guy that's going to be attacked, and that's going to be Elon Musk. Believe that. You watch and see.
What's interesting about that, and I plan on doing it this week. I mentioned I spent most of my day on Monday with Lee Larson, who is the finest radio mind and one of the finest men I've ever known in my life. He is currently reading. There's a biography out there now of Musk, and he's telling me what a great read it is, and so I plan on picking that up this week and to read about Musk. But Musk Musk is pretty international. He's South African, I think, by birth, and he lives in many different parts of the world. And according to what Lee was telling me, he'll work until 7:00 at night, call the airport, get on his jet, go to another and start to work again. I mean, he's just one of his kids wants nothing to do with him. He's one of those guys. But what are they going to come after Musk for?
I don't know. I'm just saying it will happen. I'm just saying.
No, but why?
I believe it will happen. I don't know why. I don't know. So, they'll come up with something. Right. How did they come up after Trump with all these charges?
Well, because listen,
2016, he was just coming down an escalator, saying, "I'm running for president." Well, here they come. They just started attacking him right off.
What happened in Georgia? The delegates, his phony delegates, have already.
I'm not talking about Georgia.
I am. That's where he's being charged. They didn't get charged for anything in New York coming down an escalator. That's insane. What happened? He's got people that work for him in the New York trial who are turning on him. And they're
lawyers. They're lawyers. They're lawyers. And lawyers.
There's always an excuse.
They're lawyers. They're lawyers.
I appreciate it. All right. Thank you, sir. No, I mean, in the fraud trial in New York, where these former employees, people who worked for him and his 2 sons, they were hired accountants. They were part of the company. And they're out now under oath saying what they did. Now, Donald Trump denies any wrongdoing, and the trial comes as, again, he's going to have to pay attention, and he does. He goes to New York. He's been saying he's going to appear. He's going to take the stand. He has said that before and not taken the stand. But do with this as you may, but his first accountant is this Donald Bender, who did financials for Trump for years. He testified against Trump. Cameron Harris, this also another accountant, testified. And there's a number of people lined up to go. And now Donald Trump is complaining about he's not going to get a jury, but what finds out his legal team didn't ask for a jury. And I'm thinking to myself, the way that these people think is if he had a jury, he'd be bitching about, I don't want a jury. They play that game. And so anyhow, I think we're watching the Donald Trump show is going to come to some sort of an end one way or the other. He still faces all these other charges. My close personal friend, John Eastman, has been indicted on one of them. Donald Trump's indicted on one. They're called unindicted co-conspirators, and I've seen all that before. So no, and it's this Jesus, this Savior, and it just isn't true. So the Colorado Republicans, I think, I think they're a microcosm. 303-696-1971. And our very own Ken Buck. Why did Ken Buck do what he did? We've been talking about this. Ken Buck did that to clean up his act, to make that the Dave Williams part of the party like him. Remember, he was CNN Ken. They'd attacked this guy. He's a redheaded stepson, man. They're beating this guy to death. Suddenly, he appears to want to oust Kevin McCarthy as House Speaker. He becomes their darling. What a good job, Kenny boy. That was because, and like I talked about this before, it's almost like an adjective or an action verb. You're going to be primaried. And the primary was going to come. Well, by God, they're not going to primary me now because I voted to get rid of Kevin McCarthy. Conversely, or on the other hand, watching Lauren Boebert. Why did Lauren Boebert not vote to oust Kevin as House Speaker? Because she too is cleaning up her act. She got caught. Everybody talked about it. Lauren, getting a little handsy there in the theater, vaping, telling the pregnant lady, all that kind of stuff, being escorted out and lying about something that later, that's the important part of this, they show her on video. She's doing it. So she wants people to believe something else as well. Fine. That's okay. But don't tell me you did it for these altruistic, real true Republican reasons, because neither one of them. They both had their own motives. All right, we go to James. James, you're on a radio show. It's 8:43. Good morning.
Good morning, Peter. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you.
I was listening last night about 11:30, and I'm just completely astounded that now the Biden administration
building a wall.
Decided to start building a wall on the southern border.
I know. I cracked up as well.
What is this world coming to when liberals won't let free voters and other folks come across? And then, of course, they're suing the Texas governor for putting some 1,200 feet of plastic balls to keep the illegals from climbing over them. Wow. Yeah. That's just incredible.
No, listen, I have this new theory that Biden and Trump, they need each other.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't, Eisenhower, Stevenson, or Kennedy, Nixon. Biden and Trump need each other, and it's called not the other guy defense, where they will both survive because of the other guy.
Yeah.
I really believe it's like pro wrestling. Two great professional wrestlers worked together to make money. Yeah. And Biden needs Trump and Trump needs Biden. Did you see Biden on that picket line, the UAW picket line?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Michael Jackson's Thriller. He's going, dun, dun. Like, yes. James, thank you. I'm watching this guy, and you can watch the union guys they're like looking at him like, why are you here?
I want to walk up to him and ask Biden at that moment, who are you? Where are you?
He has no idea. He has no idea.
No clue.
No clue.
He's almost like the Three Stooges, you know, and they push the one guy in. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. That's Biden.
But he
Just
needs
a goofball.
I've read position pieces, don't know if they're true. The only Republican that can't beat Biden is Trump. Trump is the only Republican that Biden can beat. So, but I don't think either one of them are going to be there. When it comes time, voting time, I don't think either one of them will be on the ballot.
Yeah, a lot of my real liberal friends live down in Capitol Hill, Cheeseman Park. They're really feeling the pinch of the economy and all the rubber meets the road.
You bet.
Last week, I know Stefan said something the other day. It's compelling that he actually recapped all the crime, 7 stabbings, 3 people killed in 1 week in Denver.
Yeah.
Where are we living? I used to walk the streets of Denver and actually have a good time.
Well, the only person that conceivably could screw Denver up more than Michael Hancock is the new mayor.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think as Hancock, this guy, I mean, especially now, as you point out, in this inflated moment, gasoline, food, rent, what's he doing? He's taking all of that money and giving homeless junkies places to live and getting them maids and paying their food and who is supporting it? Hardworking people who are having a hard time that you just pointed out.
Peter, they took one of our buildings away, 1100 East Colfax, the Hyatt Regency or Ramada. They took the thing, dropped it to the ground, and now they're building this high-rise homeless shelter. And all I could think of is, as soon as they get done, those folks are going to be out on the streets selling the flat-screen TVs for crank.
That was Philadelphia. It was called the Philadelphia.
You know that?
The Philadelphia. No, they were pulling the copper. Bob Cote was one. They were taking the copper wires out of the walls. They started out. The first thing they did was sell the microwaves. I'm not making this up. And then, they started ripping stuff out of it, and these were the junkies, and they would sell it on the street. Well, we watched it in Vancouver, Crowley and I, and Stefan. Then, when they got really down to it, they found out there was copper wiring, and copper wire apparently is worth a lot of money. So
$4 a pound, right?
Is that what it is?
Crap.
They kicked the walls
$4.
Kicked the walls in, pulled all the copper wire out, and took it to the junk man and sold it, and then went to the junk man and bought it. But it's like, no, that's what's going to happen here. But is it conceivable to you that anybody who could screw this city up more than Michael Hancock? He's been elected.
Pena could come back and do it. He was horrible.
I
have a vendetta from him for the airport. So we talked about that before.
I gotta make the jump, but here's the point. This guy's running for governor. He's not the mayor. He's running for governor. And he's channeling Bobby Kennedy. He dresses like him, does his hair. And we've seen it all before. Thanks, James. Back after this, everybody. Good morning, everybody. 710 KNUS on a Thursday morning. Radio Free Denver, October the 5th, 2023. I'm Peter Boyles. We're on the air everywhere. It's been an interesting morning one more time. It's good to be back in the saddle. Thursday, 68 will be the high today. That is today. Tomorrow, 60 on a Friday, and then 75 on Saturday. We are back in studio here on Saturday mornings on the 9 a.m. show, and we've been talking about promoting it. But Jimmy Walker, the legendary Dr. Daddy-O, the Daddy-O house party. I'm live and in living color, Daddy said. What color am I coming through to you? And they played it goes back, and Jimmy goes back, and we were talking about the history of radio a little bit ago, off and on, and it was called race music at one time. What we got 2 minutes? And they called it race music, and rhythm and blues, and then rock and roll, and the idea that the coinage of the term rock and roll, what happens, and how it comes out of Cleveland and goes to New York, but not that. That's true, but not true. But because Daddy's from Houston, I think, but how it changes the face of radio, and Jimmy had an O&O, an owned and operated by African Americans. And it was like really rare. And I'm sure he was one of very few people that did it. So having said that, open lines will continue. We're talking about Boebert voting and not voting. And of course, Joe, and that's the part of it that's crazy. Ken Buck voting and Lauren Boebert laying out. And we're talking about Trump being on trial. Talking about radio, talking about you name it, I'll claim it, I'll take it on the other side. So it's Thursday, and it's a really nice looking day. So we turn around and come back. Lines are wide open at this point. Want to jump the show, 303-696-1971. But why does Lauren Boebert, who you would expect to vote to get rid of Kevin McCarthy, not? Why does Ken Buck, who you would expect to support the man, votes to get rid of him? It all has to do with Colorado, has nothing to do with national politics. It has to do with imaging, face cleaning, changing positions, and having all the lunatics on one side believe that he is now one of them, and all the lunatics on the other side believing she's not. So stay here, 710 KNUS. Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday morning, October the 5, 2023. Good old 710 KNUS. I am Peter Boyles sitting in for George. He'll be back tomorrow. 710 KNUS open lines right now, but it's been a really interesting morning to come back and do a weekly morning talk show. Dick Wadhams was with us at 7 o'clock this morning. We talked and we have been talking about politics in Colorado. And again, a quick reminder, I have my own show, 9 a.m. on Saturday mornings. In studio will be Jimmy Walker, Dr. Daddio. So there's something called Occam's razor, Alexander and the knot. And all of this, and I've listened a little bit this week, all of these, I think, somewhat phony explanations for the voting that took place here in Colorado. Now, of all the states in the union, why does Colorado have 2 of the magic 8 that they get rid of the speaker? Colorado Republicans vote to oust Kevin McCarthy as House Speaker. Ken Buck supported the ouster. Lauren Boebert backed Kevin McCarthy. Makes 0 sense unless you take Occam's razor. What was Ken Buck trying to do? Ken Buck was making his move to the right. One of the brilliant people that I have the opportunity to work with and work for has been Mark Crowley, who made this little picture of Ken Buck jumping right. On the other hand, and you would not expect her to do it, would be Lauren Boebert, who jumps left. Why is she jumping left? And why is Uncle Ken jumping right? Well, the answer is very simple. They are paying homage to the issue that they need for their own reelection. Now, remember, he was CNN Ken, like yesterday afternoon. He was going to CNN. He was a total rhino. He was anything that these people wanted to call him. He was. And there was a lot of talk about somebody that one of the people I think I know that was going to primary from the right, not from the left or not from the maybe some intelligent central thinking, but rather was going to primary challenge his seat in a primary, moving way far to the right. And what did Ken just do? Blocked it. It was like, part of you goes like when people can pull some stuff and it's so smart, you weren't thinking of it. You're going, damn, man, that was good. So Ken Buck, out of the clear blue of the western sky, jumps in to oust Kevin McCarthy, who is more of his brother than Lauren Boebert. Now, Lauren Boebert, as we all know, has been, as the boys say, been jammed up. And again, what's worse is she lied about it. Nah, man, don't, and all the stories that were told about the theater, and it gave Channel 9 just the golden goose. But she's a little handsy there, hey, way to go, Lauren. And smoking a vape, and the pregnant lady sitting behind her. And she just looks arrogant and awful. So what must she do? Now, if none of those things had ever happened and her husband, ex-husband, whatever, didn't get jammed up, apparently the guy that she was with is an Aspen guy. And I've been told by sources, and I don't know if it's true, I think it is, that he had like drag shows in his bar and all that kind of stuff. That stuff is like, you're doing what, Lauren? So what must Lauren do? Lauren's going to lay low like Johnson's wax. I mean, she's not getting back into that fight because it brings spotlight on Lauren Boebert. Not only has she been, a bad girl, but now she's voting to oust Kevin McCarthy. So I listened, she was on a radio show with George yesterday, and I was going to the gym and I heard it. I went, come on, please turn up the heat. So we have that to talk about. And that's why they did it. And so the other one is this editorial gets written against Dick Wadhams entitled, "What a Bunch of Dicks." Dick Wadhams and the establishment screw the GOP. And it was signed by Ken DeGraff, conservative Republican. Right away, I talked to Dick right away. He's extremely angry about it. He said he thinks that Dave Williams wrote it, and went after Dave Williams, and in fact calls Dave Williams a liar this morning on the show. I know Dave. I'm trying to get Dave on the show, and we have not gotten a return. But just the first part of this thing I know isn't true. And they talk about that John Hickenlooper's 2010 victory that made the GOP a minor party. And they put Dick in it, put Wadhams in it. Guys, I was involved very much with that, with Tom Tancredo and Dan Mays and the late Freda Poundstone. Remember how that went down. And we had some responsibility in the private life of Bill Ritter. Bill Ritter was the governor. Remember, he quit. And it was because of your hanky and your panky. And we pointed out there was more hanky than there was panky. And Bill Ritter dodges a bullet and ends once was a friendship. But this is what's interesting about the truth. If you can do what you want to do, but if you tell the truth, you're going to be fine. So Bill Ritter resigns. It opens the door. They'd already done a screw job. The Republican Party hated Tom Tancredo, screwed Tancredo over. If I was going to do the show tomorrow, I'd have Tancredo on to talk about it. Remember Dan Mays, who wrote a book, and he went after me. I went, oh boy, faint praise. So Mays was the Tea Party guy. What almost made the GOP a minor party is they charged Wadhams with that. No, Dick had nothing to do with it. Tommy T, we met. He called me up. It was a Saturday afternoon. And I got on my motorcycle and I went down. I met him at a place down off of Santa Fe. And he said, I'm going to run. And I'm going independent. And I said, you're my guy. I do whatever you want to say anyhow. So Tommy jumps in. The Republican Party that had nothing to do with Wadhams, they continue to back Mays. It's like a total he's a fraud. But they wrote this. Dick Wadhams, although the former chairman of the Colorado GOP, is a prime example of the problems that plague Republicans. While he wags his finger, he ignores his tenure that was marked by a series of electoral failures, to include John Hickenlooper's 2010 victory that almost made the GOP a minor party. To this young man, DeGraff, dude, I don't know what history books you're reading or whom you're talking to, but Wadhams wasn't involved in that on any or all levels. And they went on to charge him as making money, and he said he hasn't made any money since they're not taking a check from the state Republican Party since 2011. It's a pretty long time to get charged with that. But he did tell us, and my good friend John Eastman, John Eastman's he's getting checks from the GOP. Whew, damn. I keep up with John because we're friends. I only wish him the best. And they're going to yank his ticket, his license to practice law. And he's also been part of the RICO in Georgia that Donald Trump's part of. So then Donald Trump in New York. And Donald Trump is back in court, this trial, fraud trial, as they're saying he's responsible for his financial statements. And I've been watching this as much as I suspect all of us have. But Trump is doing business in New York, and so they're bringing up people that, in the vernacular of the street, they rolled on him, which is going to happen a lot. When I really expect Eastman to roll. I really do. I mean, he's that kind of a guy that he'll roll on Trump. But he is the engineer, the guy that wanted to, abate the Constitution on that terrible day. But you got Donald Bender rolled on him, and all these different people rolled on Donald Trump. We will see. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. But how do you see all this, I guess, is what I'm asking you. And what's going to happen? Right now, these guys voted with the Democratic Party, and they knocked Kevin McCarthy out of the box. And it depends on who you read, that some of this stuff is personal, that Gates had a Jones real bad, had a Jones on McCarthy. And so he led the attack. McCarthy said, well, okay, if you want me out. And I think we're talking to Bonnewell last night. Joe Cannon, I think, did that challenge and withstood the challenge. So why does it matter? Well, there's all these blow-up points, but there's a civil war inside the Republican Party. There's a civil war. And how are they going to resolve it? How are you going to resolve the impossible? Because these people spend more time tearing themselves down than they ever do in doing the right thing. And also in this too many dicks or a bunch of dicks, they're talking about their candidates. Tina Peters, Ron Hanks. Like Ron Hanks was going to beat Michael Bennett. When? This is a guy taking a rifle and shooting, was it copy machines or whatever he was doing, and pretending they were Dominion voting machines. Tina Peters, my heavens. I think she's going to pull a little time. But so they wrote, they tell voters the cycle after cycle, Republicans nominate their milquetoast candidates and campaign with their unconvincing messages. When will the GOP win again? Well, tell that to Senator Joe O'Dea or to Secretary Pam Anderson. They actually ruined Pam Anderson. They did. By the way, has anyone heard anything from either of these flag bearers in our fight against totalitarianism? Nor have I. Silence is deafening. Well, I don't know what role Wadhams played in that, but so if this guy wrote it, Ken DeGraff, do you really think Ron Hanks would have beaten Michael Bennett? Ron Hanks was your boy. He was your candidate, man. It's like, Deadeye Ron. We're going to run Ron Hanks because he's going to beat Michael Bennett. Let's stick Tina Peters in there. And there is this term about drinking your own Kool-Aid. And then something else, and we'll go to the phones. Something else has dawned on me, that Trump and Biden need each other. They absolutely need each other to continue. Again, I think everything happens in professional wrestling, but having been around those guys a long, long time and listened to people talk, he came home to Denver he knew that his end was pending and became a wonderful friend. Dr. Death, Steve Williams, Doc and I used to go on remotes, and Doc rode a Harley, also rode a motorcycle, and Doc and I would ride together, and I would take him with me on remotes. More people came to see Doc than they certainly ever came to see me. He was a legend, was a true great professional wrestler. He fought in the shoots in Japan. I mean, he's just tough and just as gentle as they come. And I went to Doc's funeral. That was a heartbreaker. But he always talked about, and Flair did the same thing. Flair, when I had 2 opportunities to speak with Flair on a one-on-one, and Flair would talk about me and Ricky. That's what he talked about. And that was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Me and Ricky made money. When Doc talked about the Junkyard Dog, whose real first name was Sylvester, and he said, me and Sly, we made money. Doc is the white heel. The dog is the black baby. They filled South arenas, Florida, North Georgia. I mean, that whole Mid-South thing. And in fact, Doc once told me that, remember back when people had vans, like really cool vans, and they had a tricked out van with like beds in it or something. The Marks burned it. It was like Macon, Georgia or something. Doc told me the story. He said, the cops came into the locker room and said, whatever you do, don't go back out there, because the Marks figured out it was your van, and they burned it. But he knew that he could not make the money without having the dog. And the dog knew he couldn't make the money without having Doc. Ric Flair, probably the greatest runs in Ric Flair's money-making time, although who knows what Flair made where, is when it was the feuds between he and this other legend, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And they needed each other, legitimately. Rick could have not gone in there and done a Broadway and had him hanging from the rafters and gotten 10 grand for that night. Ricky could have not walked in that ring with anybody else and pulled, they call it a Broadway. 60 Minutes was a Broadway. And it's inside their verbiage. But they would say, and if you think about it, how much they needed each other. So Biden and Trump, this light goes on last night because I'm gearing up to come and do George's show. They need each other. And Trump is only polling well because of Biden. The only reason Donald Trump is polling well is because of Biden. And conversely, the hatred for Trump comes through the Democrats, but it's called not the other guy. Does that make sense to you? That the only reason Donald Trump has this great polling number is because Joe Biden, and you can have, Kelly and I were talking, he's going to play that Michael Jackson music. Did you get an opportunity to watch Joe Biden walk the picket line? First of all, it was just amazing that a president would come and walk a picket line. And if you look at the faces on the UAW guys, and it turned out when Trump goes to speak, these guys are being paid. They're being paid to show up and hold signs. I mean, the old union guys that I grew up with and worked with, they wouldn't have tolerated it. And I suspect these UAW guys, they said they didn't want Trump there, so he went to another place. But look at this and think you're really actually seeing the truth. So I've been taking some people being upset about the show, and okay, fine. But what that gets down to is I'm not doing the radio show that you want. That's all it is. And who will become the speaker? Scalise, Jim Jordan, and there's some thought on the internet sites that there's a guy named Kevin Hearn. He's a conservative, that they expect him to throw his hat into the ring. But this is the Civil War. And the Democrats, you notice every Democrat voted, get rid of them. Get rid of them. Why? Because on some level, I think they predicted what would happen. And what do? They make the Republican Party, which is really hard to do, to make them look worse than they are. I mean, you think about it. What did they do when every Democrat and his mother vote for, dismissal? Why? Well, it's fairly simple. But why does Ken Buck do what he does, and why does Lauren Boebert not do what she does? It has zero to do with the speaker, who's going to be the Speaker of the House. Nothing to do with it. It's all right. So it is your turn. 303-696-1971. Hang on to your hats. There's nobody on the phones. Do you believe any of this anymore? Is there anything that you go, okay, God, that's true? 303-696-1971. Back after this.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
got to do this. Did you watch Joe Biden on the picket line? I mean, right out of this. Like Michael Jackson does those amazing dance moves, and then one after another, and then pretty soon all the zombies. And by the way, they do that on the 16th Street Mall on Halloween morning. They come and do the Thriller dance. And people learn the Thriller dance. One of the kids had the Thriller dance down. Turn up just a little bit, but I'm watching Joe Biden and the UAW strike line, and these guys are looking at him. How talented was this guy? How twisted was this guy? Michael Jackson. Anyhow, that was when I watched Slow Joe out there on the strike line. It was like, man, my man. All right, here we go. We go to Dennis. You're on the radio show. Good morning and thank you.
Well, howdy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, you talk about old-time radio. I just love your stories.
Thank you. Thank you.
I said, it's just such a treat.
The man's
going to go to the 60s, 70s.
Not that early, but it feels like it. Feels like it.
Well, you hung with some people from the 60s.
That's right. Oh, no, it is true. But if you remember the 60s, remember the Great Line, you really weren't there. Anybody that says they remember, I remember, no, you don't. I mean, if you did, were you truly there?
Well, I was up in King Carl, back when we were still horse.
Oh, yeah. Anyhow, you called for a reason.
Yeah, I was, you remind me of James Garner. He used to do a 12 to 5, 12 a.m. to 5 a.m., and he would never get a call. And I always felt so sorry for that guy. And he would finally get a call, and the guy would talk for 30 seconds and then hang up. And James Garner was says, "No, hang around. I need to talk."
No, we've had pretty much full lines all morning. I don't know the point.
Oh, it was just, I was feeling reminisce,
Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, I don't even know the guy's name. Where did he work?
He was
worked here.
Oh heck! What was
apparently
Kelly Rockford. He was Rockford.
Oh, you're talking about the actor. That was James Gardner. Played
James Gardner.
He didn't do
right,
it.
And he used to work for KNUS.
No, he didn't.
12 to 5.
No,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Sorry, he did not. That's not true. I apologize, but there was a guy. I'm being told by the boss. There was a guy by that name that worked here, but it's not James Gardner, the actor. It's not him. It was just the same name.
I could have swore it was.
Well, once again.
Well, anyway, I'm so honored to have spoke with you because you're a legend in my book, and I'm serious, man. I mean, when there's a book full of names, you're gonna be in it.
We'll see what happens next. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. We go to Charlie. Charlie on a radio show, man. 303-696.
Well, that's minor. If it's a pilot light, you just got to reignite it. You turn it off, and then you wait a while, and then you put pilot on. And
yes, he tried to, and it didn't.
Well, he's got to take it.
Why do I think we're listening to something that has nothing to do with the show?
There's a little tube.
All right.
There's a little tube in there. It's about 1 inch long. It's called a thermocoupler. You got to reach in there and clean that a little bit.
All right.
And if that doesn't work, you might have a gas regulator going out.
Huh.
How old is it?
It's probably at least 10.
Hold on a minute.
Sure. Want to do a radio show?
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little about the pilot and the little tube. Who were you talking to?
I had to have the phone on. My daughter called me. She's got an emergency. I don't know. I was on hold. Peter.
Yes, sir.
Long time. Listen, I'm an old dude. I got this idea. I've been a long time listening.
You want to listen? I can put you on hold. Your
Well,
daughter's.
hold on a minute.
Your daughter's more important. I'll bring you back.
Oh, that's okay. Hold on a minute.
All right.
I'll call her back.
Man, take care of your kid.
I'm trying to. Well, she's a growing. I'm 80-year-old plus.
That's okay, brother.
Long-time listener. I'm still riding a bicycle too.
All right, man.
I got this crazy idea about frozen assets and about Russia's frozen assets.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody thought about unfreezing some of these assets and use them against Putin and use them instead of spending our money in Ukraine?
Brother, listen, stop. I don't think we're holding Russian assets.
We've got $2 billion, Pete.
Who froze the assets?
Oh,
stop. Who froze Russian assets in this country?
Well, that's what's going on.
No. Answer my question, please. We have frozen assets of the Iranians. I don't think.
No, we got frozen assets of Russia.
Who did that?
The U.S. government.
No, I say no too quickly. Who was president when they froze Russian assets?
Oh, let's see. It was just before the war.
Which war? Which war?
When did the war start? A year and a half ago? 2 years?
They froze Ukrainian assets in this country?
No, they froze Russian assets.
Oh.
$1 billion worth of frozen.
All right.
All over Europe, big corporations, banking, the banks in Europe, frozen assets of over $200 billion. Let's unfreeze some of them, use them against Russia. And use them for the war, let him eat some of his own bullets.
But the war machine, and we did a video yesterday on it. The war machine loves what's taking place. They're selling equipment. They're selling.
Oh yes, it's money.
Of course it is, and it's blood money. But I'll take a long, hard look this afternoon.
Would you please?
No, of course I will.
I'm just no goat. I don't know.
Oh man, me and you quit that. So
finance the war with the frozen unfreeze.
No, but see the money.
Assets.
If they're given money, and this is the question that was being. Do we really want to be involved in this war?
We are involved.
Oh, I know that, but do we really want to be there? And my answer is no, we don't.
Politically, we have to.
Nah, there's a concept, and it's called a tripwire war. And World War I was a tripwire, and and eventually, you're gonna cross over. And right now, the United States of America is indirectly, and on some levels, and directly on other levels, fighting against the Russians. And we will eventually, if they keep screwing around, eventually they will trip the wire. And then it's going to be Katie bar the door.
Well, I don't know who has the authority to use some of these assets. And, what the hell is the sense of having frozen assets?
In the case of the Iranian, and Jimmy Carter, that's what I'm asking about presidents, but Jimmy Carter froze the Iranian assets when the Ayatollah arrives and they overthrow the Shah.
I vaguely remember some of that.
But most recently, and it was under Obama, that the Iranians, under the mullahs, needed armaments. And so they were going to be, so all this money is in being frozen, stayed frozen in the country. So it was Northrop and, all the prime defense, the war machine. They go to Barack Obama and they go, they're going to take that money and they're going to spend it with the French, the Germans, the British, and the other arms dealers. So
right, it's always about the money.
Of course it is. And so Obama sends the secretary, sends John Kerry to meet with the mullahs. And I always said the second he walked in the room, the mullahs had him. But all of that money, the real pressure on releasing that money came from the prime defense contractors on the Obama administration.
Just recently,
yeah.
Sunday, they had an article about Germany. They've got an engineering company over there making sophisticated, complex weapon systems and selling them to Russia.
Sure. Who's better than the Germans?
Germany.
Nobody. No. When it comes to building armor and all that kind of, if you think about it, how sad this is. When was the last time German tanks were in the Ukraine?
Mm-hmm.
World War II.
Yeah.
And now German tanks are in the Ukraine, or German armor, and it apparently appears on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
But who's making the money?
Well, it's just it goes around.
No, the armaments, the war machine makes the money.
That's always been.
Thank you.
It's always been that way, but someone has to have authority to say, "Listen, we're being suckered here."
You bet.
Hey, let's do something to hurt the guy.
I agree. Well, I don't even want to hurt the guy. I just think it's just
all we're doing is poking him a little bit. We want to hurt him.
No, man. I'm telling you, there's certain people. There's certain hornets' nests you just don't want to kick.
Well, that's true all over Europe, probably.
No, the Europeans are they're frightened as well. But who are they more afraid of? Look, I mean, when you look at internally with the French, and the French have been really, really smart about staying the hell out.
That's true
Yeah, but the Germans are making money. The Poles are, whatever the Poles are doing. And these are people that they're jonesing. They have long memories on what happened. But I don't know, man. Eventually, I will find. Charlie, that was a good lead, man. Thanks. I'll take a look.
Yeah. Okay. Have a good day.
You too, brother. Thank you, man. 303-696-1971. So who's the good guys and who's the bad guys? For the life of me, anymore, I have no idea. I think they're all bad guys. And I mentioned, how Biden and Trump really do need each other. And in a lot of these Republican website readings that you can do that are away from the crazy, they go, hey, the only Republican that cannot beat Joe Biden is Donald Trump. And conversely, like the Biden people, and I think they're the people that got the kill hats on, they know that they got to get rid of Biden. This guy is more diminished every day and playing, thriller. But did you watch him on that picket line? What an indicator. He's what? Diminished. Maybe that's a kind word. This guy, and you watch him speak or you watch him move, and you know that this guy's got problems, huge problems. And yet, on the other hand, as I said, they need each other at this point to support each other. That Trump is polling well because of Biden. And Biden, conversely, the hatred for Trump infuses the Democratic base. And here's two candidates who only survive, and the term is called not the other guy. Do you believe that? I certainly do. That you can, the bugaboo, the scary thing in the dark is Donald Trump for the Democrats and is Joe Biden for the Republicans. But now people have taken these things to levels that the lies are, beat the truth by miles. And when they're beaten, when the Republicans are beaten, they don't understand why they're this insane thought process that they have that we've listened to this morning. That there's no such thing. We really won. It was stolen from us. No, you just got beat. It's like you got beat. And the moment you come to terms with you got beat, then maybe, because the truth always sets people free. I want your turn. 303-696-1971. Maybe I can talk to Billy about getting this state rep Ken DeGraff on. And Dick said he didn't write this. He said Dave Williams wrote it and didn't want to put his name on it. What a bunch of dicks. Okay, 303-696-1971. We ready to pull the pin? We're getting ready down the line to take a break. First time line, second time lines are wide open this morning. 303-696-1971. Why do you think Ken Buck voted the way he did? Why do you think Lauren Boebert did not? Serious questions. Why do you think Ken Buck voted the way he did? And why do you think Lauren Boebert did not? Is it this elaborate, BS that you hear, or is it the basic facts of life? It's the notion that comes, and it said Occam's razor. That's why. 710 KNUS. Good morning, everybody. 710 KNUS. This is Denver's talk station. I'm Peter Boyles, filling in for George. He's back tomorrow. It's about 9 minutes before the hour of 10 o'clock. Jammed up lines. We go here to Mike in Littleton. Hey, Mike, you're on a radio show. Good morning.
Good morning, Pete. I don't know if this will connect to much, but for one, I am happy that McCarthy got the boot. To me, he had a big job to do. He had a year to do it. His big job to do was to get 12 appropriations bills ready to go and to the Senate before the deadline. He was nowhere close to accomplishing that. I don't care how, I would hope that Lauren Boebert and Ken Buck voted him out because he wasn't doing his job, but I highly doubt that was the reason.
There you go. I think you're spot on. But why did the rest of the party not go along with the ouster? In other words, these 8, and I don't know the others, but
I believe that what I've heard, McCarthy is a fundraising machine. He's he'll appear at any event, fly around the country. And that's the problem with the whole process. It's all about raising money. It's not about doing your job or the principles of the country.
Again,
so that they support him because he's a good moneymaker for all of them.
Tom Tancredo, who I love, Tancredo said, the minute you got elected, you began fundraising for the next one. And he said it was always your job was to bring in money. So anybody that they call them rainmakers, anybody that could bring in money, you want that guy. And I come back to the Biden, Trump, Biden. They need each other to raise money. They need each other.
If I don't. The fact that McCarthy was raising a bunch of money and not getting his primary job done, which was the power of the purse and getting those bills done. We've got to break this process. We just can't keep it continuing.
I would never argue against that because you're right. On the other hand, why did Buck do what he did? Why did she do what she did? Because they are part of the fabric of Colorado. And I think they're explicable. The others, I don't know. As a matter of fact, I haven't even pursued knowing much about it. But did you hear Gingrich, of all people, come out and I thought he was really, and I'm not always necessarily a big Newt fan, but I thought he made a tremendous case on why did you do this?
And the party politics, the knives are out for the 9 or 10 people and they're going to go after him and cut him up and everything else. And it's a waste of time. The whole thing's a waste of time.
Can I ask you a legit question as a final question? Do you believe any of these people?
No.
Shake
I
your
do
hand.
not.
No, I know.
I do not. They lie to us every day.
There you are. When did you decide that? When I'm trying to write about this. When did you decide that the whole thing was a jitterbug? How old were you and what happened?
I'm pretty slow, Pete. It's probably within the last 5. No, I'm serious. Within the last 5, I'm a political junkie. I follow it close, but the last 5 years, I turned off the TV. I got sick of the Sunday shows because it's all, it just dawned on me that it's all a bunch of lying.
You are a very bright man.
Let
me ask you another one. When is the last time you watched a newscast on television from start to finish?
Pete, I don't watch TV anymore. I turned the TV off. The last time I watched one was probably, 10 years ago, maybe.
Start to finish.
I told you this before, but I go way back to the days of, Carl Akers, Star Yellen. But somewhere in there, let's say 10 years ago, it was like, this isn't news. This is
no, of course not. It's
fluff. It's empty.
Or it's mommy news. I got
mommy news.
I have a minute. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this call. It's a great way to end a remarkable 4 hours. But
well, thank you.
No, please, thank you. But I'm saying to you, I have come to as an old man in a young man's world. Why you believe these people, I don't care who they are, is beyond me.
Yeah. I just hope people catch on quicker than I did.
Yeah. You take care.
They're good at it.
Thanks,
okay,
man.
Take care.
All right. I think George is back tomorrow morning, and I got Daddy-O in studio. We do the radio show 9 to noon here on 710 KNUS on Saturday, and the one and only Dr. Daddy-O. Kelly Michaels, thank you, and thanks to Dick Wadhams, and that stirred the pot. Let's see what happens next. Take care, everybody. Thank you.